Very nice.
You can introduce yourself, guests.
Um, so who's first?
You can
You
go
are.
first.
Alright, you can just call me George because my name is kind of hard to pronounce. It's not an English one, but anyways.
So I'll call you Joe.
Alright, I'm cool with that.
Awesome. How about you, Mike?
Mike Byrne reporting. College dropout, Caucasian contrarian, all around troublemaker troll. Interested in philosophy, and that's about it.
Awesome. So today is going to be your topic of interest then. Do you think computers will ever experience human emotions?
What will experience human emotion? Oh, computers.
Computers?
Oh, God. I don't know. This links in with the Kurzweil question of can we upload ourselves onto a computer, right? Can we have a living thing on a hard drive? Is it even going to be a hard drive? I don't
It will
know.
be a living
Um,
drive.
Yeah.
I think we may be able to upload ourselves onto a computer or something, but it's kind of impossible to have to make a robot have emotions.
If we upload ourselves onto a computer, all those new thoughts we have on that computer, that's going to really be us, huh? I'm convinced I'll be dead as fuck, and that'll be some little similar, I don't know, representation of ourselves. That's not me. Well, maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe they'll be able to map the brain out perfectly and get where all the atoms are exactly and figure out how to port that over, but they're pretty skeptical.
My question would be somewhere along the lines of can we ever make them have the real human experience and have robots that will do things that humans do for you?
Yeah, but we have to be very careful about how far we go with this, because if we make a robot which is able to learn by itself, it may start to recursively become more and more intelligent, and it will surpass our intelligence. We will never be able to stop it, like in Terminator, the movie.
Kinda, baby.
I mean, what's wrong with it surpassing our intelligence?
With whatting our intelligence?
Robots becoming more intelligent than us. What's wrong with that?
Because they will I don't know, assume or calculate that we're actually dangerous to ourselves and will lock us up like animals in the zoo.
Or turn us into little pods.
I mean, here's the thing with me. What I assume would be good is make robots very intelligent, but make their loyalty to humanity become more strong than their intelligence.
Until some rabble rouser puts in a part of code to bypass that shit.
Yeah, but the thing is, if it becomes intelligent enough to be able to become even more intelligent, it will eventually wipe out all the.
I mean, I do not know about at the computer level of intelligence, but even at the human level of intelligence, we still have lots of, let's see, loyalty. And I think some people would claim that loyalty is correlated with being less intelligent, but I would disagree with that. I mean, I hate to break Godwin's law, but the Holocaust happened in one of the most intelligent countries at the time.
Uh,
So intelligence can exist at the same time with loyalty.
yeah.
And we can make robots loyal to the human race or something like that.
Some
Oh, well,
ju-
these
ju-
things slaves. They're not gonna like this.
I mean, okay, they don't have life, so what will if you give them money, what will they do with it?
well,
Upgrade
may
their
I
hard drive.
may I add some background to tell you my background? Well, I'm currently not a programmer, but I'm learning. I'll be going to college in several years after I graduate school, so I kind of know how this would go, but I think loyalty is a human thing. I don't think we can program emotions into robots.
I see. I mean, yeah, that is one of the questions I asked was, can we make them have emotions? Like, if we make them extremely emotional creatures, but also intelligent at the same time. Then you would say that their emotions could make them be driven by their feelings rather than reason.
Yeah, but then we get women. They're completely driven by emotion, not by intelligence.
You just described humanity.
Do you
Yeah, we
remember?
don't do things a logical way.
So it's like there was one man and he was like, if we want to make robots, we should make them like women.
Yeah.
And he was a feminist, so he was more of like, men are filled with toxic masculinity. Women are so good, so we should make women be in charge and have children.
Hopefully, by the time we get to the point where these questions are seriously pertinent, feminism, third wave version, will be long gone.
Well, feminism is already self-destructing. It's bound to self-destruct.
Yeah.
Do you think computers will ever be creative to do things on their own?
You mean if they will ever have abstract thought?
Yeah,
Uh,
like self-interest.
No, computers can only think with what they have. They they can't just hang around and just like that it clicks.
I see.
Do you?
What did you say?
I was wondering if you really see.
Oh yeah, let's hear the quotes.
I should be on my laptop looking up stuff. I'm on my phone, so I can't nerd out.
What do you think of consciousness?
It's pretty awesome. I like it.
Is it real?
Oh yeah, if we think, therefore we are, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And if we're not real, I'm okay because it feels pretty real. What would be the big difference if it was all a dream? It wouldn't matter. Or somebody else's dream.
Okay, let me ask you this tricky question. When you feel toothache, is the pain in your mouth or in your brain?
Well, the sensations
Uh,
from the part of your body signal to your brain that you should feel pain. So your question's a little funky.
yeah,
Chopping off your arm, pain doesn't really exist. It's, it's like love or like anything. It's all in your brain, chemicals being released.
Mm. Yeah, what do you think of how would you describe an emotion?
well,
That's a good one.
I don't think we can define emotions. We experience them differently. We can just kind of describe them, but it's about definition. It's not defined.
Well, we can define it. We might have bad way to do it, but we could take a shot at it.
Yeah,
Shut
I
up.
don't know. Start with intent. Huh? I would
Start with
start
what?
with calling it intangible first. It's not an actual thing you touch, unless you want to count, the signals in the brain as something tangible. I mean, those are electrical pulses, and that's where emotions come from, right? Isn't that all where everything comes from that we experience?
I
yeah,
mean,
So if you think,
different emotions though could be found at different parts of the brain, and some of them could be described as drugs, like for example, the emotion of love and lust.
yeah, so those are chemical signals and electricity. So if we call that a thing, then emotion is a thing. But that's really like sound. It's like sound is really vibration. It takes a person to interpret the vibration to call it sound.
yeah. That's remembered one philosophical question. If a tree falls, does it exist if there is nobody to hear the tree falling on the
Yeah,
ground?
does the sound exist?
Yeah, the vibrations exist, but the what was the word?
Sound is a human interpretation of reality.
I just can't remember that word. Anyways, drop that.
So, what do you think reality is then?
Huh, what reality is?
Oh, my phone's gonna die.
Mike's phone's gonna die by the time he was asked about what reality is.
Is reality.
Mike's phone fears reality.
Yeah, it doesn't want to be here. What is reality? Holy crap. There's a broad question.
Yeah,
Is reality? I don't
uh,
know.
yeah,
That's could fill
yeah,
volumes with that.
I don't know either. But one thing I know for sure, reality exists.
I don't know. Call it
Well,
whatever our consciousness experiences. Can we call that reality? Does that
I would
count?
say it's more of like an actuality, what we can actually see and feel. But then I think it's also part of what we perceive.
What about the guy who's had his arm cut off and experienced his arm being there and feels the sensation? He feels that. Is that reality? Is the arm there?
Well, that's
Hmm.
perception,
Yes.
and perception is part of reality.
All right.
Yeah, but it's. Hmm.
his feeling is real, but his quote-unquote hand being there isn't real.
Wow, that's a tricky question.
Hmm?
That's a tricky question.
Yeah. I mean, it's like how much I heard some.
So I think if you're a hypocrite, you can't be a hypocrite and be moral at the same time. I think those two ideas are wrong. So I think the hypocrisy is where the relativity is based.
So let's see. Let me
Well,
look for.
yeah, and also morality is subjective. It's also one of these things that varies between people.
So you don't believe that there can be objective morality of any form?
Well, I think if you look at somebody's hypocrisy, if they're a hypocrite, then they're objectively immoral. So I think that the only objectivity is a relative scale based on one's own hypocrisy.
So there would be no collective morality in that sense.
No, I don't necessarily think that's something that you. I mean, you could measure the collective hypocrisy of every person in a group, and.
No, I mean like different societies that have different moral standards. How would you say their morality is better to yours if the only thing that is immoral is hypocrisy?
Well, give me an example.
Let's say, for example, let's take the Saudi Arabian law versus the United States law, and how they're both a reflection of the moralities of the states.
Okay, so like their laws?
Yeah.
Well, I think laws can be hypocritical.
So that means they can be immoral by your sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So using your standard of morality, would you say we are more moral or less moral than Saudi Arabia?
Well, I think I don't know though. There's too many laws. In the United States, there's 1 million laws. Are you talking about just like the Constitution and Bill of Rights?
For example, in Saudi Arabia, it's immoral to be homosexual, and they execute gay people. And in the United States, it's kind of accepted to be homosexual.
I think the hypocrisy is when one person thinks that their life is more important than the other. And so I think capital punishment, in that sense, especially, is a form of hypocrisy. I mean, you're saying that the executioner's life is more valuable than the person dying's life.
Yeah, it is, based on their achievement.
So I think I don't really know how to articulate it, but I would say that you taking away somebody's liberty in that way is a form of hypocrisy, because...
I mean, if we're not going to take away somebody's liberty as a consequence for their actions, we would not have even prisons in the first place.
But if there's no victim, I mean, if it's a victimless crime and you're giving somebody death penalty for that doesn't seem like.
Yeah, okay, I would agree with that. But what's a victimless crime in the United States that's punishable by death?
I don't think there is one. There's not one.
Yeah. So.
Well, I don't think the death penalty I don't think there's death penalty in countries other than in Saudi Arabia. I think there is death penalty in Turkey, and that's the main reason why they weren't accepted in the European Union in the first place.
Oh, true, yeah.
What do you think of art?
Art?
Yeah.
I believe in art. Like, what makes art good? Like, how would I objectively judge something as good or bad?
Yeah.
Well,
You can't.
I don't know, but why are we only talking about things which are subjective, which cannot be judged objectively?
I mean,
I'm talking about the topics of the hangout.
yeah, I'm kind of making it I'm trying to like get to know you guys in depth and your subjective take on things, I guess, and your philosophical take on things.
I think with art, I like to look at what are the boundaries. Like, how did the artist restrict themselves? And within those restrictions, how were they able to still be creative? Like, if you look at a song, it has a definite form, and many artists will restrict themselves to a particular form of music, like a sonata or a just a different format of music in a certain key, and but even staying within those boundaries, they're still able to be very creative. And I think if they were to just get rid of those boundaries, it would take away from the art. So I think for me, art is very much dependent on those boundaries.
So what would be your boundary in those boundaries? Like, what would be your test? Like,
My boundaries?
How much effort and creativity would you expect?
How much effort and creativity?
Yeah.
Well, it depends on what the art is. So my art is I write code, and my code, there's certain violations that I won't do. Maybe it's going to achieve some task, but it totally destroys the design of the application, or it's something that doesn't, it breaks something else, or it's different than something else. So I would see that as kind of a disconnect.
So you had on morality, you had said morality is subjective, and one of my questions would be, would it ever be objectively wrong to torture babies for fun?
Yeah.
What would make it objectively wrong?
I think only if you can define hypocrisy, if it falls within the realm of hypocrisy, which I think that would.
How?
Well, because if you were a baby, you wouldn't want to get tortured.
How about if you were tortured too? So.
Well, nobody ever wanted to. I mean, you didn't. I mean, as a baby, it's not possible to even choose whether you wanted to or not. So, I mean, anything that hurts a baby, I think, would be considered a form of hypocrisy, and so it would be objectively wrong.
Yeah, it's kind of it's common sense. You don't do things which you don't want to be, which you don't want to be done to you. And may I ask exactly what job you work?
For me or Rad?
a lot.
What? What was the question?
What job do you work?
I'm a software architect.
Huh. Alright, I'm studying programming, and I will actually be going to a competition in about a week. So yeah, we're kind of in the same sphere.
Oh, cool. So do you guys think that, I think feminism is very regressive for women. I think it's very bad for women because I think there's a lot of inequality. I'm not saying there isn't, but it's not across the board inequality.
I mean, there's no inequality that's institutional.
Well, I think there is.
Tell me
But,
one thing.
well, like women can't go topless and men can.
Well, that is not okay. Here's the thing. Let's see. What's the assumption you have when you see guys going topless? Like when you see guys walking around topless, what assumptions do you have of them?
Well, the male the female breasts are sexual organs. That's why they're not allowed to walk topless. It's the same for us. The same way we're not allowed to
But
go
babies-
bottomless.
Babies are just as attracted to boobs as grown men are. You know, you can't just say it's all sexual.
No, I mean, you are kind.
Nothing real sexual
It's
about
chemical.
them. We've just made.
There's something chemical about them, though.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Well, I mean, that's
like,
just one example. And like society, like, you know, men pay for the dates, men ask the women out. You know what I mean? It's just like divorce laws favor the women. I mean, there's
that
a
is an
lot.
inequality against men. It's not an inequality against women. It's in favor of women.
You're right. I'm saying it's in favor of. I'm not saying
Well-
saying men or women. I'm saying there's both. I'm saying there's inequalities for men and there's inequalities that favor women and men. But they're in different sectors to the point where I think it evens out overall.
No, it
Well-
doesn't even out.
Well, I'm
Um,
just saying, like, I wouldn't. There's a lot of women that have it really well just because they're women, and there's a lot of men that have it really well just because they're men.
Which type of man?
I mean, like bachelor. You know what I mean? Just like guys that take advantage of their masculinity, and there's different areas of society that favor men, and there's different areas that favor
I mean, tell me
women.
one area that favors men.
There's probably more jobs in the military.
Actually, let me tell you, you've said the military. Do you know that the admission requirement for men is much more wider than that for women? Men are expected to be much more strong and physical than women.
Well, are you saying that it's already equal?
It's actually in favor of women.
That's
It's
fine.
in-
Well, then there you go. There's in favor of women. So I mean, there's
You failed to know one
millions.
thing.
There's
failed
things
to
that
get-
favor men and there's things that favor women.
There is no one thing that you can't say that favors men so far.
men are more masculine, but bodybuilders aren't born with all this muscle mass. They worked years upon years to build it, and women they can get to life just because they were born beautiful.
Like men have a longer. They're more attractive longer into their 40s, but women they get past a certain age and they can't.
Yeah, they hit the wall.
They hit the wall, you know. So I mean,
Yeah.
there's
That is
natural
nature.
advantages.
It's not our fault. That's nature's fault.
I'm just saying, there's natural advantages to being a man.
I agree with there being natural advantages, but I'm saying that social advantages. That's where.
Well, I'm saying there's no difference. I mean, those natural advantages carry over, and there's no way to remove them from society.
Well, there is actually difference w- we we have a gynocentric society. Women are favored much more than men. Men are disposable. All these things.
Poor men are disposable. But I mean, like,
Not
for example, a man in society can be much more aggressive than a woman without being labeled, um, like a bitch.
But a guy is called a dick or an asshole, which
An
is kind
asshole
of
is
the same
different than
thing.
being aggressive. Like if you're a stud, like what's the female equivalent of a stud? There's no such word. That doesn't even exist. That's a concept that you have to just invent. If you look
I
at,
mean,
like for example,
okay,
a woman has to choose between being either a girl or a woman, but a guy can be a guy. They don't have to be a boy or a man. There's not a word for guy for a girl. So
what do you mean by for a guy? For
like if
explain,
you're a guy,
elaborate.
like for example, you can be a good guy or a bad guy. But if you say she's a good girl or a bad girl, that's different than saying she's a good woman or a bad woman. Like it's
Well,
not the
you
same.
can also say he's a good boy or he's a bad boy.
Those are different. Like a good boy and a good girl are the same. A good man and a good woman are the same. But you would have to say she's the good guy. You couldn't say there's not a word for that for a girl. They have to take the man, the word.
I mean, guy isn't for men though. The word guy doesn't imply men.
You're right, but it doesn't imply. It implies either a boy or man. It could be either.
Or girl.
Only, only in a certain context, but you're right. I mean, they have to take there's not a word for it, only because there's not a word for it, but a guy is a man.
Wait, let's see the definition of guy, and let's see if it says anything masculine.
Man.
Make fun, dude. Dictionary has many meanings. For example, one of them is make fun of or ridicule. So that means the word guy is an insult, guys.
Yeah. See, I'm just guying with you guys. But okay, so like, women have to choose between either when they describe themselves, they have to say I'm a woman or I'm a girl. But a guy can say, has the convenience of saying I'm a guy. There's no expectations to being a guy.
Well, yeah, but
There is-
there is boys are expected to man up and be manly, and women can choose to be womanly. I mean, feminine.
Let's see the
I mean,
expectations.
they get to choose if they want to grow up or not. Men are forced to grow up.
I mean, men are also supposed to be aggressive and dominant.
Yeah, and that's more socially acceptable than a woman. So like if a woman comes into a department and really takes charge of it, people are going to resent that woman more than they would a man.
That is our biological function, and there is nothing you can do about it.
I'm just giving you examples here. So I'm just trying to point out some different equalities, some benefits of being a man, benefits of being a woman. I'm just saying.
But I think we have enough feminism that if you resist against a woman, you could get fired from your job. Whereas if you want to make a guy fired, it's very easy. You just say that he's a sexist piece of shit or something like that. Or make a false rape accusation.
So what I'm saying is equality, if you're looking for across-the-board equality, which seems like what feminism is searching for, then you're actually bringing a lot of women down to the equal status of men.
What equality feminism is seeking for is biological equality, nothing else.
I don't think they're looking for I think they're just looking to take away the advantages of men in society.
I mean, I think the only solution, I think C.S. MGTOW made the best video on this issue, where he said the only way that feminism can achieve its goals is by making men become less masculine and kind of feminizing men and making men kind of like creatures that give children.
And it's bringing a lot of women down too. It's bringing women and men down because, I mean,
Women have nothing to lose, man. Feminism is a sign of gynocentrism in a way.
but like if they want to take away alimony rights to women.
No, they don't.
Some do.
No, most do not. They want
Oh.
women to have the right to be traditional mothers too.
Well, I mean, you can't have it both ways. I think it's bullshit.
They want it in all ways, man.
I think it's bullshit. But if they're trying to say that women and men are equal, the only way that plays out is if a lot of women lose their privilege and a lot of men lose their privilege. That's why I think it's regressive. Is because regressives, I define regressives as people that, to make things fair, they make things harder for other people, rather than bringing the people down up. They bring the people that are up down.
Well, that's the trend now. To be a true progressive, you have to be regressive. You're a programmer, right? They kind of become so progressive that they overflow and turn on the other side, if you know what I mean. When an integer overflows,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. I think that's what's happening.
How do you define a regressive? Like, give me the most concise definition of a regressive. I'm on.
I would say someone who stands for equality of outcomes and doesn't acknowledge the reality of life. I would say a
No.
liberal that doesn't acknowledge the reality of life.
Equality of outcome, that's socialist or communist.
Yeah, and most regressives are in that line.
Here they are.
I would agree.
Regressives,
I would agree.
regressives think that the future is in the past, sort of.
Oh, why are you quiet, guys?
Oh, dude, I'm trying to do two things at once here.
Multitasking.
Yeah, I gotta make money, dude. I'm making money as we're working.
Awesome. I'm waiting for the dollars to come in, man.
Yeah, I saw your YouTube channel. Dollars with an S, two of them.
Let's see. I mean, I think that the role of men is kind of worse because they actually lead to real consequences, including suicide.
Well, yeah, they're fighting for female supremacy, lifting up women while kind of trashing men, pushing them to the ground.
So let's see let's look for another topic. Okay, what's your take on terminating birth?
I'm for it.
Okay, but here's the thing with me. If women will have the right to escape the responsibility of parenting, how about men?
Yeah, I think fathers should be able to opt out of child support because a woman can choose to have abortion or no, but a man is forced to pay child support and alimony. And even if there is a law for this, it will be very tricky because she can get pregnant, go somewhere for 9 months, for example, and come back with a child, with a child, and the father will still be forced to pay. So it's kind of hard.
Do you think it's ever okay to disobey the law?
Yeah.
Then why do you need law if you are to disobey it when you disagree with it?
I don't think we need a law.
Yeah, same thing. I'm an anarchist. Yeah, we don't need laws.
So you don't believe that we should have a state in any way?
I think it's just one form of government, and I don't necessarily think it's the best.
So you don't want any form of government?
I think we'd be happier without government.
Yeah, we don't need to.
Tell me one way in which the government depresses you.
What?
You said you would be happier without government, and I said, tell me one way in which the government depresses you right now.
Well, the government is always seeks power. I mean, it always always becomes corrupt, and we don't need laws to be moral. We don't need someone to control us, so we don't do commit crimes.
How will you deal with criminals, though?
You just take your club and you go out and you beat them over the head.
Yeah, the Wild West style with the cowboys.
I'm just imagining Rod getting beat up every day. You know, it's like Rod came in thinking that he would beat the thieves, and then they ended up beating him up.
Okay, so if you're talking about cities and like society as we have it now, then yeah, you need laws. But I think that I would be happier just living out in nature with like a small tribe of people and being more of like a hunter-gatherer. I think that would be.
You want to live like the Amish people?
Well, more like a tribe, like out in the jungle, like hunting.
Yeah, because they live like a tribe too.
Well, yeah, I think the closer you are to nature, I think that's the most natural state for humans, and I think the more natural state, the better. The more happier that people can be.
Yeah,
dude,
exactly.
Shit is natural, but ice cream is artificial. But I'd rather have artificial ice cream than have natural shit.
Well, yeah, but what does this have to do with politics?
No, I'm saying that nature isn't always perfect. Nature is in fact imperfect. We are more perfect than nature.
How do you figure? Everything we do is natural.
No, I don't think that everything we do is natural, nor should it be.
Well, what isn't natural?
Anything that happens in nature is natural. Anything that is man-made is artificial. But at the same time, I would make the argument that there is nothing artificial because we are part of nature.
So, but you can say something's more natural than something else. I agree, everything is natural, but like a beaver dam is less natural than just a river.
I mean, nature. We are part. If you think if you are to say that, you have to make the assumption that we aren't part of nature, or nature isn't using us as a tool.
We are a part of nature. I think we are a part of nature. But I'm thinking there's things that have become less natural. Like if you take something like a computer, a computer is made out of natural things, made by people that are natural people, but the end result is less natural than just all those things.
So you believe? I mean, even computers, you could say they are natural because what did you use to create them?
I'm saying there's a linear scale of natural and less natural. Like you can't say that a computer is more natural than a tree or equally natural.
I mean, if we are part of nature, because the tree is using the soil, and human beings are like the soil, like the way the soil is to the tree, human beings are to the computer.
Seems kind of redundant to me.
Thinking if you have two things, I mean, you can look at two things and you can decide which one is more or less natural, right? Do you agree or disagree?
You could, but only if you are to claim that, you have to also claim that we aren't part of nature in a way, or you have to claim that we are less of part of nature than. You have to claim that the properties of X are less natural than the properties of Y.
Yes, that's fine.
But then the next question will be, what determines what nature wants, or what nature's desires are?
I think you right now the question is just more or less natural, and we agree that you could come up with that definition of something. Like if something's made out of natural products and they're not, processed, you could say that's more natural.
Yeah, even if we talk about artificial intelligence, you can say that a dumb artificial intelligence is less natural, less like as us.
I mean, I think the concept of artificiality comes from the old-time philosophies and beliefs that we aren't, part of nature. Whereas right now we are coming to the realization that we are part of nature's equations. I mean, you accept that there is no free will, so.
Well, I accept that you have all these artificial mental illnesses now that, well, not artificial, but they result from people being so detached from the millions of years they evolved in a certain environment, and now we live in an environment that's completely foreign to this type of environment that we evolved in, and it's no wonder why half the population is on antidepressants and things like that. I think it's because we've lost touch with nature.
I mean, it's not half the population. It's only about 25% at most. That's the most large number I've heard so far.
Well, I'm sure there's probably a correlation between urbanization and mental illness. So I think that if people could if we had a society, like I used to live in Costa Rica, and you never saw, the policemen didn't fuck with you, the laws, they didn't even enforce the laws.
Okay, here's the thing.
It was better. I mean, you're around nature. I mean, people weren't.
Would you rather us become Mexico, or would you rather us stay the same? I mean, why pick the great? Why pick Costa Rica? Why not Mexico? Because Mexico has, I believe, a larger population than Costa Rica.
I don't think a larger population is a benefit. I think a larger
I agree with you, but we already have a large population, so if we are to say that we are to stay in a state of nature, we have to compare ourselves with countries that have large populations and stay in a state of nature, not with small countries.
For example, Chad, that's a very natural country.
And I think, yeah, Chad is a very natural country and it has many human rights violations and everything like that.
And it's one of the worst places on planet Earth to live.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they have guns. I mean, they have things that are very unnatural there. I mean, I'm sure if you take away all of the modern civilization tools.
I mean, if you have enough number of people, even if you take all the guns away, people will fight with spears, man. Spears.
Of course.
You know, to be you fight. You know, after the next day after Rudd becomes president and takes the guns away from all Americans, you find a bunch of Americans running with spears for Rudd.
Well, it's much easier to pull a gun and shoot than to get a knife or something like that. Go to them. You get what I mean? It's much more convenient.
I would much rather just live. I envy like those people that live on like those, like just in like a hunter-gatherer society. Like there's this TV show, I forgot what it's called, but they go follow these tribes around and they hunt like turtles, man. They just go find turtles and take them back to their camp, or like they shoot monkeys out of the sky with like poison darts. That's what I want.
Dude, but you can't have children in that world.
Yeah. What's the average lifespan in such a society? Like 30 years. And if you look at many hunter-gatherer societies, like the Yanomamo, a man has like most men will be killed by other men by like 20 years old. Most women have 3 or 4 husbands in their life. I mean, it's a barbaric, warlike culture. And yes, they use spears, and it's more murderous than any modern society imaginable.
But they probably work less. I mean, on average they work 3 or 4 hours a day. They spend most of their time just like hanging out. I mean, their quality of life is better. They have a good environment to live in. They have very healthy food.
Their quality of life is worse because they don't have medical.
It is.
They don't have Western medicine.
Well,
why is it that every primitive culture which has encountered the West, even in the day of political correctness, where that started back when the British were occupying India, all of these cultures, every person in that culture can see, and they desire to live in our culture. They voluntarily chose to live in the modern world. Nobody is going and living like the Yanomamo. If we gave the Yanomamo an opportunity right now, they would all choose to live in our society.
Okay, but listen. Like when you get a credit card in the mail and you got $5,000 cash, you're going to spend it, right? What I'm saying is those.
Why?
I'm just trying to do a parallel here. I'm trying to say like those benefits that we're getting from society are actually destroying the earth and making it unsustainable to live on. So, yeah, just because we're able to destroy the resources of the earth right now in a way that creates the illusion of wealth, I don't think that's actual wealth. And I think that we're actually capitalism and the institutions that we've created, anybody can see that those are destroying the planet. And so I think...
Yeah, okay, but let's even see...
So we're going to create a horrible quality of life for a lot more people coming up here pretty soon. I mean, as soon as the air quality is gone, and as soon as the oceans are warm and the climate, the Great Barrier Reef is destroyed, these things are not coming back. And there's no going back to that old way of living. And I think if we stayed there, if we would have stayed there, there would be a lot greater happiness long term.
Well, we have to progress.
If we'd had no science.
I think anybody can look at our scientific advancements as an ushering in of the destruction of the planet. I mean, I think it's inevitable.
So you think science is a destruction?
I'm not saying science is all bad, but what I'm saying is that our institutions of like capitalism and these Western society, these values and stuff, they're not values that actually protect the planet and make the quality of life better for people in the long term. It's a system designed to exploit resources, and these resources aren't gonna.
Okay, tell me one society that doesn't exploit resources.
That doesn't destroy resources?
Yeah. That's not natural.
Well,
everything destroys resources, but capitalism destroys it in such an efficient way.
I mean, just look at China versus America, who destroys more resources.
Well, I'm not saying one's better than the other. I'm saying they're both.
I mean, you're blaming capitalism as a system, so I'm just.
China's the most capitalistic of all the systems. Are you kidding me?
Okay.
No, it's a communist country.
No, they're not communist. They're not communist. They're very.
Of course they are. Of course
they are.
If you're going, you can't
no,
just
you look at how they manipulate their currency. Trust me, they're more like Adam Smith on steroids. That it's institutionalized. It's institutionalized at a very high level. Trust me, they play capitalism on the global markets. Maybe they've forced their people into a system of communism, but they're the most capitalistic of all of them.
They don't have a free market. They manipulating resources. That's not part of a free market model. That's something which is going to have a very an economic downfall for them down the line. Just at the moment, it allows them to sell their products cheaper, but that's not going to be good for them. If it was a free market, you wouldn't see them manipulating their currency.
Capitalism is just the best system we can have or we have ever had. But the thing is, we need just to regulate the businesses so they don't exploit the resources. I mean, with socialism, you have they're trying to achieve equality of outcome. So you have an average person earning, for example, $300, just an example, and another person who wants to advance to become something else, but communism holds that person down to the level of the average person.
Well, I think capitalism and communism both are destructive. I mean, they both systematize destruction of resources, but I mean, maybe capitalism does it in a way where it has more output, but that's not to say that communism doesn't destroy resources. I'm saying all of these modern ideas, these societies, ideas of states and nations, and I'm saying these are all, our system as we have it now is not sustainable, and there's not going to be much quality of life in the next 100, 200 years.
Okay, first of all, why? I mean, obviously any human activity is using resources. So, are you saying we should have only a few 100,000 people living on the Earth? I mean, obviously humans are going to use resources.
That would be much better. There's way too many people. There should be way less.
Yeah, but go on.
You know what's funny is they've actually this whole ridiculous idea that the Earth is overpopulated. Medieval manuscripts, and they've been talking about. People have been claiming that the Earth is overpopulated, that the end of the world is coming due to cutting down trees and whatnot. They've been saying that since the Middle Ages. And what was the population of Earth back then? So I mean, they've been saying this for all of these hundreds of years, and nothing has come of that. The quality of life has improved. Human lifespan has doubled, quadrupled all over the world, everywhere.
That's the problem, is that human lives are too long. I think they need to be shorter, like maybe 30 or 40, as opposed to like 80 or 90. or
Well,
100.
What?
I think that's the. I think that would be much better.
having more people in general increases the chances of having more intelligent people.
But he doesn't. I mean, it sounds like you don't care about advancing life on Earth. So
I don't
I
see
don't
quality of
understand.
life as
You want
length of
humans-
life. I don't see the quality of life as the same as length of life. Like,
Oh, well,
I don't
neither
think
does
humans were
the
meant to live. We weren't meant to live to be 90 or 100, and I don't think that's a good measurement of a happy life, is longevity.
Well, first of all, quality of life is not synonymous with length of life, not whatsoever. That's not how the Human Development Index measures it either. When we talk about quality of life, one of the factors of that obviously is length of life. Quality of life also includes happiness, prosperity, freedom, political freedom, freedom from being tortured, freedom to pursue interests, all kinds of things. Of course, these are important, and every country that adopts free markets, we see them going from squalor. Look at Africa. Look at the richest countries you'll find in Africa, and the up-and-coming country in Africa right now, which is Botswana. What's the difference between that and every other African country? They have a free market, and the rest of Africa is socialist, and the people are starving. They have no means for procuring wealth, for doing anything. They're dying, and if we want to save their lives, and stop them from starving, which I'm sure you agree, we need to give them a free market and a framework for creating wealth in their nations.
Well, I say, okay, if you have a system of countries, you're going to have a certain set of rules to measure the happiness of people within each country. But I'm saying get rid of the whole idea of a country altogether. So forget about the whole idea of a country, and that's where I would prefer to go. So
Tell me one place that is not a country in this planet right now.
there are none. I mean, Antarctica.
You should go there.
Exactly. That's where I want to go. I would be happiest somewhere where there's nobody telling me what to do. I can do whatever I want. The
Well,
human.
you can move into the ocean on a boat, and the laws are not enforced there, so you don't need to go to Antarctica.
There you go. So I mean, I want to be somewhere where there's nobody that's put themselves above me, telling them what I have to do, what I can't do. Maybe I'll live to 40, maybe I'll live to 50, but once you're old anyway, you don't really serve much of a purpose.
Well, in your mind, there's many people who are. Look at Bernard Lewis. He's turning 100. He's still writing books.
In terms of like, well, you can still serve a purpose. Don't get me wrong. I think you can still. Old people are still valuable, but
Valuable to
I
who? To
don't
themselves is all that matters.
I'm taking from an evolutionary point of view. As soon as you are past the age of giving, facilitating life, then the evolutionary is working against you.
Yeah, you
Okay,
becoming a degenerate.
That's
But
fine,
that
but
doesn't.
sorry. That's
But that-
fine, but we don't base our morality off of evolution, and thank God that we don't, because that would be it would be like living like a lion. It would be absolutely
Yeah,
horrific.
that's how I want to live. More like a lion. I was thinking that. I was like, man, it'd be great if I could just be like a lion.
Or like the Yanomamo. Do you want to live with the Yanomamo? I'm pretty sure they don't. I'm pretty sure the Yanomamo don't want to live like that if you
Well,
give them a choice.
It would depend. I would want to pick one where they have a nice jungle. You know, maybe some animals around.
Rod, no one will vote for you for elders will not vote for you for president, man. Yo, the senior citizens community of America will say Rod should never run for president because once he gets there, he's gonna kick us all out of the country.
Oh man.
It's like Rod deported 5 million old men. Where? To heaven.
Do you think if Hitler hadn't killed so many Jews, like if he just left that part out, that he would be considered a good guy or a bad guy?
Probably he would be considered a bad guy.
If he hadn't killed the Jews, like if he had no beef
Yeah.
with Jews.
I mean,
Why?
what made him fall was not really his battle with the Jews. It was his attack on the rest of Europe.
Well, okay, let's just say, well, Napoleon did that too, but we don't demonize Napoleon.
I mean, Napoleon's power was much less than that of Hitler. Napoleon's influence wasn't as bad as that of Hitler today.
Okay, so let's just say Hitler would have he got France, and he stopped at Russia. He didn't try to go into Russia. He never pissed them off, but he got all of Europe.
I mean, if he got all of Europe, we would hate him definitely.
So if he was just the conqueror of Europe, so he was like Alexander
Yeah,
the
we would
Great.
hate him though if he took over the rest of Europe.
What?
We would still hate him if he took over the rest of Europe.
Why would we hate him?
I mean, we would hate him for the reason that he kind of spread values that are against our values in Europe.
So if all of Europe was one country, just called Europe or Germany, would that be it? Would we look at it the same way we do now? Like,
Yeah. Would actually hate him more if he took over the rest of Europe. Because most other citizens of Europe would also be pissed off that he took over their right to a country. You know, if Canada took over America overnight, we wouldn't be pleased. Or if Mexico took over.
Well,
we took over all of the Native Americans that were here. I mean, they made Hitler based his cleansing based off of what we did to the Indians, right?
I mean, the Indians didn't have any civilization, so we kind of civilized them. I mean, we gave them casinos, man.
Well, that's
We're
what
so kind.
that's probably what Germany said about Poland. You know, I mean,
Hmm?
they would have made the same argument against Poland. Like they didn't have.
They didn't have what?
They didn't have an army. They couldn't defend themselves. They were living backwards. They could come up with all. They were subhuman. You know,
No,
they need us to come in there and protect them.
But objectively speaking, the Polish had some level of civilization much better than the way the Native Americans did, and they had their own structure, whereas the Native Americans didn't have any form of civilization at the time.
Well, are you saying that's okay? What that makes one okay and the other not okay?
Yeah.
Is it whether it passes your civilization test? What
Yeah.
about like all of South America, like the Incas and the
I'll be okay with
Mayas?
taking over them, man, and making them civilized.
You're for that?
Yeah. I believe that there will be empires. The difference is what values the empires spread. And we are lucky to be part of the empire, man.
Oh my gosh. I don't like the Empire.
Don't like it?
No,
You can't go look for a better empire that fits you.
I'm more of a Return of the Jedi kind of guy.
Return of the Jedi.
I'm more of a Luke Skywalker. Let's blow up the Death
This-
Star.
I mean, here's the thing: there'll always be empires. The question is, what values do those empires have? Now, if you are to say we are an empire, and then I would say we are a great empire, because an empire is measured by the happiness of its regular men and women. Regular men and women are quite pleased with it. So it's being quote unquote imperialistic doesn't make
No,
me
just
feel-
because those people like it. Okay, so like, have you ever seen the movie Hunger Games?
Nope. And I'll
Okay.
never do it. That's a good thing.
So it's kind of like, okay, so I mean, if everybody hates the American Empire except America, That's not good.
People love us, man. That's why they come to us. They love our values. Our values work best.
They like our values or they like our money?
Our values and money, because our money is associated with our values, man.
But if you take away our money, our values would change. Our values are only what they are is because we're in the position we're in, right?
No, our money and our values are kind of directly correlated.
Rich people have different values than poor people. Do you agree or disagree?
Okay, depends on what the issue is. For example, what they found out is that people slightly above the middle class are much more liberal than people slightly below the middle class.
So is the fact that we're a rich country, does that make our liberalism as benevolent, I guess? I don't know.
It makes.
Are we liberal because we're rich?
Let me explain this to you, like I tried to explain to some of my friends yesterday. You know Maslow's hierarchy of needs, not so?
No.
So it's a psychological idea that there is different hierarchies of needs we have. And so it begins with safety, and then it goes up all the way to self-actualization. And our society is kind of good at giving all those values more than the way other societies are. Let me show you the hierarchy of needs.
I'm listening. I'm just doing some other stuff too.
So here's the hierarchy. I think you can see it. I screen shared it. It begins with physiological needs, for example, food. So your desire for food could make you eat your child if there is no food. Like if we ran out of food in a state of nature. And we have that. And then safety. Your desire for safety could kind of shape your moral values in a way.
Yeah.
And you could kill someone for your own safety's sake. And then the third one is love or belonging. You have a desire to belong to a group.
Okay.
And once you achieve that, you reach to a state of self-esteem after finding what interests you and what you want in life.
Okay.
And then at the end of all this process, you reach to self-actualization. So the case I'm making here is this: being rich makes you more moral. Because definitely for the first 3 stages you need money. And you need the first 3 stages to reach to the 4th stage.
But why money though? I mean, money's a new invention. Why is
Of course it's not. People, I mean, of course it's not a new invention. It just money as we call it today is. But if you look again at all kinds of ancient civilizations, for example, who was it? Some civilization that lived near the Easter Islands, they had giant wheels of stone, and that was considered their currency. As shells are currency in some hunter-gatherer societies. Every society has currencies.
Well,
Mine
what
is
about
just-
animals? What about animals? I mean, we're just animals, right? So, I mean, let's put that scale on the same scale as like gorillas or chimpanzees.
Well, if we are going to play that card, am I going to say that, birds fly, so why don't we fly? And there's
Well, I'm trying to say that if we're looking at, these sorts of
Different-
emotional needs, there's other species should have the same sorts of needs, right?
I mean, the need for a
Just for
structure.
humans? I mean, is this inherent to just humans, or is this?
I mean, the desire for a structure is different at different animals. For example, the Ethiopian baboons have a patriarchal structure, and the women who leave the patriarchy and come back are killed in a much more uncivilized and barbaric way from the baboons. And so even animals do have structures.
Well, if you found out that chimpanzees were actually happier than humans, would you want to be a chimpanzee?
No.
Why not?
Well, there's different. I mean, how do you measure happiness for an animal with a very primitive sort of consciousness? Obviously, their happiness will depend more on immediate needs, immediate physical needs, whereas an animal that's highly conscious, who's able to contemplate a future, reminisce on the past, is able to imagine life after death. I mean, appreciate beauty in a spiritual way or whatnot. Obviously, the happiness for humans is much more complex, and for any animal with a more complex consciousness, they're going to have different happiness needs.
But isn't that... I mean, we're just assuming we're more complex. Just because other animals, maybe they have senses that are just as complex, but we can't even think about it. We don't even have words to describe their emotional well-being states.
Well, we can measure their brains, and I mean that's how we know that animals suffer. We draw an analogy to our own brain because our own brain is constructed similarly, and of course we know that, for example, eating food makes a chimpanzee happy. We also know it makes us happy, and we know that it's not possible for a chimpanzee to contemplate life after death. And I mean, we would see evidence of that if other animals were, for example, they might come up with a writing system independently, or there's all kinds of things that we look for, and we don't see those things in other.
But on that scale, the very top was self-actualization, and animals do that. Animals reach the top. I mean, they actualize. A beaver builds a dam. Ants build a big, huge anthill.
I mean, yeah.
I don't think you can't call that self-actualization, because obviously a self, in order for something to have a sense of self, it needs to be a complex enough machine to reflect on its own consciousnesses. And as I said, it needs to have memories of the past, imagination, which is hopes for the future. So obviously an animal, I don't think it's meaningful to say self-actualization, because animals aren't capable of having selves.
Well, nobody has a self. I mean, right? I mean, what's the difference between our self and an animal's self? I mean,
as I said, I can reflect upon the fact that I'm conscious. I can wonder what that means. I can another thing. Animals don't have a theory of mind. They're not capable of. Actually, I think maybe some animals are, but one thing that characterizes very conscious animals from those that aren't is they're capable of imagine. Actually, no, even chimps aren't able to. They're able to imagine what they know that other animals are conscious, and they're able to imagine what they're thinking. And actually, no, chimps don't have it. Humans are the only species which have a theory of mind.
What about killer whales?
Or even if we're...
What about like something with a completely different brain than ours, like an octopus or a cuttlefish or something like that? I mean, would it not be possible that they have it, but we just can't measure it because?
Well, insofar as they're similar to us, that means that their brains are similar to us. So yes, octopus brains, as far as I know, they are similar to ours. They obviously physiologically otherwise they're not, but their brains. An animal is similar to us insofar as its brain is more similar to us.
But that doesn't mean that ours is superior. I mean, we're just assuming that we have the most superior complex brain of any species on Earth.
No, we actually have studies showing the amount of neurons we have and how much ours is about. I think it's about a billion times or something like that, more than that of chimpanzees.
Right, and the brain to body, the brain to body weight ratio highest in humans.
Well, I don't think the Earth's main objective, the purpose of the planet, is for human happiness. I don't believe that is the ultimate purpose of why the Earth would be here, if there was a purpose at all?
Well, given that there's not, as far as we know, given that there is no purpose to anything, obviously it's going to take a complex, a conscious mind to theorize on what that purpose is, to invent all of these things. As far as we know, we're the first beings to have that ability, and so yeah, we can discern the purpose of our universe. So we can discern it to promote the happiness of other conscious beings. I mean, there is no purpose, so why not just go with that?
I think if there's a direct conflict between the sustainability of the Earth and what makes people happy, I think eventually those are going to come into direct conflict. Because if my happiness is correlated to the amount of destruction I cause, that's not a sustainable form of happiness, right?
I think, again, it ultimately has to come down to resources, the Earth in itself. Nothing has any sort of inherent value. Clearly, it's reasonable to say that the only things that are valuable are conscious things that have experiences whatsoever. So, of course, why should we care if a mountain is destroyed? We should only care insofar as if our conscious beings, are animals going to die when that mountain is destroyed? Are humans going to have a less meaningful existence if they don't have beautiful things to write poetry about, to reflect upon the world? We should only be concerned. I mean, the Earth is of no consequence. We need to be concerned about the suffering of conscious beings. So that's the only reason I care about the world.
But the conscious beings right now, in this very second, or the conscious beings in 100 years, 200 years, 300 years, I mean, you have to put a time perspective on it, because we could do something now that would totally fuck up everybody 100 years from now.
Well, great question. That's a great point. I agree. We do need to take into account human beings in 100 years and 1,000 years. That should obviously come into our reasoning. So I agree with you.
But I mean, if I'm looking at an individual life, if I want to make myself happy, there's nothing to say that I shouldn't be as greedy as possible. There's nothing to say I shouldn't, kill anybody that crosses. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, like, human happiness can't be the ultimate good.
Well, I don't think it should be human happiness. It should be, as I said, the happiness of the well-being, more generally, of conscious beings. So, again, we need to balance that. If my well-being depends upon killing you or harming you in a serious way, obviously that's not going to be justified. If my well-being depends on murdering billions of animals because I enjoy the taste of a certain type of meat, that's not going to be justifiable. We need to take all of these things into account. We ought not to promote behaviors that are going to infringe upon the well-being of future humans or of other conscious beings at this moment.
Okay, well, what if we could say this? What if we said, okay, the only thing, all these predators are like lions, polar bears, all these big predators are really competing for the same resources as us. So it would make sense to just kill all these big predators. So we're the only predators left on the planet. So all of those resources can go to humans. What would be the problem with that?
As I said, we needn't only take humans into account. I think that's arbitrary. Conscious beings. So obviously predators, they're also conscious beings that have desires. They have a desire not to be killed. They have a desire to live their life in freedom. So if we're going to...
What about a mosquito or something like that? Where we say, okay, we can wipe out every mosquito.
Well, again, we need to look at... We
do that actually when it's parasitic to our life.
Sure, if it's threatening our life, or more importantly, why do we not care about a rock? Because it has no interests. There's nothing that it's like to be a rock. And as far as neurological evidence, thus far suggests there's nothing that it's like to be a mosquito. As far as we know, they only have perhaps the most basic of experiences. There's nothing that really fun. There's nothing that it's like. A mosquito has no interest. It doesn't know that it exists. It doesn't have relationships. It's not the same type of animal as a polar bear. So that's we needn't care about that. Not all animals not all animals ought to be taken into account. For example, coral are animals. There's nothing that it's like to be a coral. So the only reason I will be concerned about destroying all the coral is if it's going to cause if it's going to decrease the well-being of other sea creatures, of human beings, of future humans. So we need to. Nature itself has it doesn't have an inherent value. It has how do you call it? Its value is only in its utility to conscious beings.
What about, like, you've heard that issue, that dilemma with, like, the antibiotics? How we're using, like, the most powerful antibiotics right now to keep our food free from, bacteria. But now that there's bacteria growing resistant to even our strongest antibiotics.
Oh yeah, this is great that you brought that up. I'm on. Do you remember Sam Harris talking about this? This is a major problem that could kill millions of people in the future. It's something. I agree with you. That's something we need to be focusing on majorly. Wouldn't you agree, Aman?
Yeah, I would agree to some degree. But at the same
I would
time,
agree to some
at the same time, our medicine will also be evolving.
Okay, so if I'm saying, okay, we're gonna do what's best to protect all human lives. We're gonna eradicate these we're gonna make sure everything is sprayed with antibiotics. We're gonna protect our food sources here. When really, it's like kind of that example with the credit card before. We're just, at some point, life is gonna overtake. We're going to lose that ability, and then the bacteria is going to become even stronger. It's like if you look at like a spray bottle, like a disinfectant, say it kills 99.9% of bacteria. Well, guess what? That 1%, that 0.01% or whatever.
Maybe in 5 minutes. It's like the thing with bacteria is their speed of breeding. Maybe what I think is the future of bacteria is going to be a genetic study, and they look at killing them in a genetic way.
Would we have been better off to just never have invented antibiotics? Because if they're going to become strong, if the bacteria is going to become stronger, and we're going to have no defenses against it,
I mean,
you could make the argument saying that the whole idea of antibiotics actually was a bad thing for society.
I would definitely not. I wouldn't agree. I mean, look at all of the terrible diseases that happened in the past. Look at the plague. By some estimates, half of the European population died horrifically. I mean, people who were documenting it at the time, they believed it was the end of the world. I mean, it was a time of absolute chaos, a history-changing event. And we know that, of course, we need to make a calculation. We're running a risk by manufacturing antibiotics, but we take that into account.
If you could snap your fingers, go back in time, and pretend the plague never happened, would you do it?
Of course not. I mean, because again, inevitably, without antibiotics, eventually you're going to wipe out half the earth. Yes, that might happen with antibiotic resistance, but then you're just in the same position as if you hadn't had them. So. But
I'm just saying there has to be those sorts of things that wiped out half of the population, let's say. I'm saying those things were good for civilization as a whole. These mass events that kill off half the people, I would say long term those are actually good for humanity. Like, imagine if we had, it wouldn't even be twice as many people now, it'd be like 20 times, you know what I mean? It's like it would exponentially be more people.
But then here's the question then. In this case, who do you think will survive most? It's just going to be the people with the genes that resist those diseases.
It's going to be the people that are the more in touch with nature. It's going to be the people that know how to do
Yeah,
the more
but
natural stuff.
no.
People that
Here's
know
the
how
No,
to
thing.
not
hunt.
at all. It's going to be it's going to be randomly those people who, for whatever reason, have genetic mutations so that they're not susceptible to those bacteria or added to those viruses.
True, but those people might not exist. I mean, there's a chance that we could go extinct from these sorts of things.
I
Of
mean,
course, and we don't want that.
there's
No, we
almost
don't
no
want that.
disease there is no almost any virus where there is no group of humans that do not have some resistance to it. For example, in a recent study, they found out that there is some people that have resistance to AIDS and they can't get it in any way.
Yeah, exactly.
So they keep
Yeah.
trying to inject them and nothing happens?
Yep. I'm like, I wish I had that. It's like you would be free enjoying your life.
Well, I just think that, like, if you were to go
Here's
back and say,
the
okay,
catch here.
let's just take the Holocaust. Let's just say, okay, we're gonna add 6 million. The 6 million Jews or 10 million or whatever it was are all now great grandparents, and they have 30 or 40 kids each. So you do the math. That's like another billion. Let's say there's
I mean,
500
here's the
million.
thing.
but that's not how it works. I mean, probably we would have been at similar to. I mean, the reason that populations grow is due to prosperity. If those people had survived, obviously, had they been living in Poland or something, they would. Well, actually, most of them who died in the Holocaust were religious, so perhaps they would have had children anyway. But I mean, you're constrained by market factors, so it's not just the fact. I mean, it takes more than just having a bunch of people to exponentially grow a population. It takes prosperity, and if resources run out, if there's too much of a demand and not enough of a supply, people will die. People will have less children. So it would have balanced itself out. And further, I would say, if we look at any event in the past, I mean, I feel like it's meaningless to talk about the should or shouldn't some historical events have happened. I mean, okay, was it immoral what Genghis Khan did? Yes, but would we have been alive today? Otherwise, would the world have been where it is today? Otherwise, no. So, I don't know. I think.
That's kind of my point, though. That's kind of my point. Is like these events, like even all of World War II. I mean, you could make a case that even the most evil of people, like Hitler and Stalin and whatever that guy in Japan's name was, you can actually say they've done more collective good for humanity than bad.
I don't think you can judge things like that after the fact. I mean, so Alexander the Great was, well, actually, and most people consider him good, but people at the time considered him, for centuries, considered him like Hitler. So I think it's when you're judging past events, you need to intentions matter. So if someone had the intention of harming people, conquering the world, doing terrible things, sure, you could say today, yes, that happened, luckily, but I don't think you could say he knowingly, actively did a moral action.
I don't. What I'm saying is, if you're you can look at morality in two ways. You can look at it as the action itself, or you can look at it as the consequences of the actions. Have the results of the action been overall good or bad for humanity, right? So, like, if you're looking at it from like a utilitarian point of view, then you could easily make the argument that, although these people did bad things, the end result was we have a more liberal society, we have better technology, we have better institutions, and those add to all of our quality of life. So are we really demonizing people that have actually improved the quality of life inadvertently?
I think the reason not would be obviously generally we want to discourage people from harming others. So the reason why we would say will continually say Hitler is a bad person is obviously because his intentions are, people with evil intentions are a danger, a current and present and current danger to people alive now, and we don't want people alive now to suffer or be persecuted or whatnot, right?
Right.
So.
If did Hitler make it safer world for people like Jews? Now they have their own country.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I'm sure you could. Of course, you could say that you could. Yeah, and the asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs and almost destroyed all life on Earth. Yeah, thank God for that. That was the greatest thing that ever happened to humanity. And mammals evolved after that, if I'm remembering correctly.
So if I'm simply saying, if I'm just making the observation, that was kind of my point at the beginning with this, that these big catastrophes are actually beneficial for human life and they actually add to the sustainability and the quality, right? So what's wrong with actually embracing those catastrophes and cheering them on, you know?
Well, because the problem is that oftentimes, I mean, we can't know what's going to happen. So the fall of the Roman Empire, probably people at the time thought that's going to usher in, I don't know, maybe some people thought that's going to usher in something good in the immediate future, and it didn't, but then it did, and we don't know what's going to happen in the future. There could be an event which eventually leads to the extinction of man, so we just don't know. We can just generally speculate that there's sorts of things, that consequences we don't want, and there's sorts of consequences we do want.
Yeah.
I mean, judging it, if we judge things by their outcomes, we could say that slavery was good, but in a way, in America, we could say that, well, if it wasn't not for slavery, African Americans would be living a bad life in Africa.
Yeah, sure.
So if we are just going to judge things by their outcomes and say, well, and kind of make things done based on outcomes, we are going to have to import more slaves and maybe commit a second Holocaust or do something crazy like that. But I'm not. So you can go for it.
No, sorry, go ahead.
I'm saying that I was going to say that I'm not so much interested on outcomes as the way I am in intent when I'm speaking about the morality of something. We're all quiet. What happened?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, as especially given that we don't know the future, we can't know the future. We just generally know. We know that it's going to be beneficial to other humans. Certain courses of action now. We know that, and we know what things are generally going to reduce well-being. So, and then that's all we can do. As the future goes, perhaps some good things will cause bad things in the future. Perhaps some bad things done will cause good consequences. There's no way we can know or predict.
Yeah. Is patriotism rational in your case? What do you think of patriotism and love for the state?
Patriotism.
Yeah.
Rod, you can respond first. I'm not sure.
Well, okay, so remember when they called Trump a racist because they said he wanted to keep out all the Mexicans?
Yeah.
Was that really a racist comment?
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either.
I mean, it was more of a nationalistic. I think that blurs the line. I think Mexico is kind of a good example of blurring the line between nationalism and racism, where we have a country next to us that's also a different race. Whereas, so you could say things about Mexico. You could be saying the same exact thing about Canada, but one thing could be considered racist and the other one wouldn't. And I think.
So, sorry, continue. You think people what?
So, I mean, I don't really think there's a huge moral difference between nationalism and racism, like in terms of like how it plays out with ethics. There's not really a good distinction to be made.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, until fairly modern times, I mean, in ancient times, there was no concept of race. There was simply a concept of nation. So a black Greek person would just be called a Greek, whereas they would call someone from a different nation a barbarian, regardless of their color. It was simply the language he spoke, the culture that he had.
I mean, I'm
so
kind of going to disagree on this in a way, because I think that you should be loving of your nation, not just based on emotional stuff, but based on the opportunities it gives you and the things that it has, like the unique things that it has as a state.
I think, actually, maybe I was confused. I think that basically you should value and love things not based on arbitrary characteristics. For example, if you happen to be of a certain race, you shouldn't or you shouldn't value races based on arbitrary things. You shouldn't value people based on arbitrary things like their skin color, or your nation. You shouldn't arbitrarily base it on the fact of your birthplace. But if your nation happens to espouse values which obviously are morally better than another nation, then I think it's perfectly valid to be patriotic for good reasons. Not nationalism is just loving your nation based on birthplace. Patriotism, obviously, that's based on the values that your country upholds. So I think that's a valid reason to love something.
Yeah.
What if your family is from
so
a particular place? What if your heritage? I mean, is that not good enough?
No, I don't think so. I mean, if you happen to be born in a terrible culture which doesn't value human rights, no, you should. That's stupid. If someone feels proud of their race, or that's why I said nationalism is similar to racism because it's based on something arbitrary. Just like race is arbitrary and place of birth is arbitrary. So I think people should be discouraged from nationalism. They should be encouraged. They should be encouraged to value. If the country happens to have good values, they should be proud of those values, and proud of themselves for holding those values. Proud of themselves for upholding human rights.
So, like, I spent a lot of time in Bolivia,
Mm-hmm.
and I like Bolivia,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't really have a good country. There's nothing special about the country. It's just that I know a lot of people there. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Well, the people are part of. Do you share some values with the people that
no, I
you
mean,
know there?
not really. It's just that I know a lot of people there. So it's like, that would be my only. I mean, I'm just saying, there's like an emotional aspect to it too. It's hard to just say, you should
Yeah, I
like
understand.
something.
That's why I say that. That's why I say that emotional nationalism is kind of bullshit in a way.
Sure. I mean, if people feel emotional about being black or white or Latino, well, they may feel that way, but that's not moral. We shouldn't encourage people to. I mean, they should try to look past such arbitrary feelings.
So, like, what if should people be proud of their race?
Definitely not.
Should they be ashamed of their race?
No, it should be. I mean, obviously, I think in an ideal world, that would be something absolutely non-discussed, a non-issue, not something that's part of the discourse. It's just a coincidence of birth. It's skin pigmentation, and I think it's absolutely. I think it's shameful to be proud of your. Not shameful, but it's ridiculous to be proud of pigmentation. Am I proud of my height? Am I proud of my hair? So why will I be proud of my pigmentation?
Well, who's to say, hey, you shouldn't be proud of this thing? You know what I mean? It's like,
Well, I
Okay,
think
like, would you ever choose to date somebody based on their race? Like saying, I don't really want to date black people. Or I
again,
don't.
so I think if I think I've had a discussion about this with someone. It's not necessarily racist if you would if you're going to say I'm not going to date I'm probably not going to date someone from who's let's say you're Jewish. I'm not going to. Okay, what if you said I'm not going to date someone who's Christian? Uh, so it depends what the reasons are. If you're generally saying if it's because you don't share values with that person, then I think that's perfectly legitimate. But if it's because of the fact that that person is a certain race, that's racist, it's arbitrary. It shouldn't be something that's taken into account in an ideal world where we don't judge people based on things they don't choose. We judge people only on the things they choose and they procure in themselves.
But I mean, you could have like those physiological attractions toward tall people, short people. I mean, who's to say those are immoral? I mean, nobody can
Well,
say the fact that you're attracted to short guys or tall guys
mhm.
makes you immoral. No, nobody can
So,
say that to somebody.
I wouldn't say that when it comes to something like sexual attraction, I wouldn't say that's immoral because, as you said, there's a physiological evolutionary basis to that. Um, Clearly, you can't it's something you can't choose who you are attracted to physically. You can't choose that, and I think that's an unfortunate fact about it's an unfortunate fact about us. For that reason we're not going to treat some hopefully not hopefully we'll treat them the same, but we're not going to be attracted to someone with facial scarring or some sort of extreme deformity. And I think that's an unfortunate fact about ourselves. It is a fact, but I think it's something, if it's at all possible for us to minimize our judgment. If it's something we could condition out of us to value physical look so much, I think it would be something we ought to do if it's possible.
Well, I mean, we would have to evolve out of it, and that would take millions of years. But I just don't. I see that people are obviously, people could even say racist. I don't know if there's a better word, but when it comes to dating, you fill out your dating profile, you can pick which races you want to show up in your results. Does picking those results make you a racist?
Okay, first
Not
I'll
really.
answer and then I think again I think that's a general guideline. I mean, there's some probably actually I'm not sure. Maybe women are different than men, but I would think there's obviously I want, for example, if I was a woman who's dating and I said I want someone who is going to more likely to be tall, more likely to come from a good family, more likely to work in a certain industry, then I'm going to, just for the purposes of convenience, I might say I'm looking for a guy of X race. But I think if you found someone who fits all of your values, all of your criteria, who happens to be of another race, and the reason that you reject them is based on that, I think I guess that is racist. What do you think, Aman?
I mean, it's this way. It depends. I mean, for example, I was watching the Swirless versus the white guy video, and he was making good points. And one of the points he made was one of the reasons he doesn't want to date black women is because he wants to avoid the whole idea of Black Lives Matter versus white nationalists. And most black women he dated were more leaning towards Black Lives Matter. And based on his experience, he wanted to remove them from the category of girls that he's dating because he just doesn't want to deal with political stuff and deal with race. And that was one of the.
I think that's legitimate.
And so he said, well, there's also physical attributes that you could want from someone, and you could coincidentally get them from one group more than the other, based on the things that the women, for example, the women aspire as beauty and view as beauty. and you also, for example, for women, they could discriminate against poor men. It doesn't make them classist to discriminate against poor men. It just makes them someone acting based on their evolutionary desires.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, it's just, I think it's the definition of human intelligence is noticing. For example, if you're looking for someone who's, on average, if you're looking for a woman who's going to be more traditional, who's short, who has a skinny type of frame, a petite woman, who's also more traditionally based, is it racist that you're going to say, okay, I'm going to focus on Asian women because there's a higher percentage chance that I'm going to find some, if I search through this pool, because I have a limited amount of time, I'm more likely to find what I'm looking for. And yeah, I agree with you.
I think people throw around the word racist a lot when I think everybody, if they really, were strict about it, people are racist in some ways, and it's not necessarily bad.
Sure, it depends on how you define it.
Yeah. I mean, I just think it's like babies can be born choosing one particular race over another. I mean,
that's natural. I mean, that's a thing that we try to. That's one of the unfortunate artifacts of our evolution that we. I mean, and also we educate children from a young age to value people not based on the race, and you can see that has an objective effect on how children will interact with people of other races. You educate them that there is people of other races and that they're just like you. You also educate children. I think it's very important. We educate children about being respectful toward deformed people, disabled people. I think if you don't, look at Arab society. Look at the way that they're treating people who have deformities and disabilities, and that's because they're not, as far as I know, they're not aggressively educating their children to be accepting of this sort of people.
But if evolution created something, who's to say it's wrong, it shouldn't be there? You know what I mean? Obviously, it served a purpose at some point.
Yeah, but...
Are you trying to say that it no longer has any need, no longer has a purpose?
I mean,
of course not.
The time when it served a lot was the times when we're living in tribal societies, and destroying the other tribe was kind of part of what was necessary in order to survive.
And I mean, if a baby, I mean, I think probably why that evolved. Why does a black baby crawl toward a black person? A white baby crawls towards a white person is because obviously, through evolution, a child they should recognize their own tribe, so that they have an instinct to recognize people that are more likely to belong to their tribe, so they're not going to be killed if they wander over to a tribe of a different sort of people.
Exactly, yeah. And I think the same thing applies, just like exactly the same thing applies with dating. Like, most of the time people want to date somebody that's like them, that looks kind of like them, that similar culture as them. So I don't necessarily think that falls under the, racist or even xenophobic definitions that society has shunned.
No, me neither. I mean, people can't choose who they're attracted to, can they?
No. I gotta run, guys. I gotta go pick up my son. But it was good talking to you.
Okay. Yeah, nice to meet you. Okay. Bye.
Later.
So, how was your day today? What did you say?
Well, I slept fairly late. How was your day?
It's alright, it's alright.
What did you do?
We're just having a dialogue before you came in, and we're kind of asking ourselves philosophical questions.
Oh yeah, such as?
One of them, let me go to the first one. It was like, will computers ever have emotions?
Oh really? And what was Rob's view? Rod.
He came in late too, so it was Mike and I and TD and Joe, I guess.
Okay.
So Mike was more of like, if robots were to have emotions, his fear was that they could be too emotional and they could manipulate. They could use emotions rather than reason and kind
Mm-hmm.
of destroy us based on emotional desires.
Hmm. Interesting. Do you want me to try to find someone else to join the chat? Do you have time?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so just 1 second. I'm just going to ask a few people. Maybe you'll do the same if you have anyone online who's interesting. Hmm. Okay, I've messaged 3 different people, so hopefully someone will express interest.
Oh, what do you think of wars?
Of wars?
Yeah.
Obviously they're terrible, but I mean it depends what the purpose of it is. I think if you went back to earlier periods in humanity, they were often also I mean if like they were usually fought for dumb reasons, but also there was no such very little civilian casualties compared to how wars are fought today. So
I mean, the population difference though, like the percentage of people per capita, I would say it's almost the same. If we were to look at it per the
yeah,
population versus the number of people dead that die.
yeah, interesting. I, I've have you ever listened to a Hardcore History?
Nope.
So he was it's this amazing history podcast, and yeah, the reason I thought that was the person who runs it, he was mentioning how before there was air warfare, usually most wars were just a few knights would fight each other, and knights of course it wasn't voluntary, but they were all lords, and they would fight a bunch of other lords, and then whatever was the outcome of that, the land would just pass along. And they weren't going in generally. I mean, obviously some of them did, as some of the rewards for knights were rape and pillage, of course. But no, maybe you're right. Maybe relative to the population size, it was similar to today.
I mean, I would say that wars have always existed and they'll always exist.
Mm-hmm.
What makes them bad or good? Bad or good is the intent behind the war.
Yeah, sure. I mean, if the intent of the war is to prevent more wars down the road, or prevent something really terrible, a really terrible government from coming into power, or something which could destabilize geopolitics, and obviously there's valid and invalid reasons for wars.
We're having a dialogue with Rod, and then he ended up bringing the imperialist card when we were talking about capitalism. And then I had to I told him there'll always be empires. The only difference is the values that the empires hold.
Sure. This is Duncan, right?
Yes, this is Duncan.
What's up?
It's gonna show as like Xanatrix, which is the name of my YouTube.
Awesome.
Oh, cool.
Or maybe
I'll subscribe to you right now.
Oh,
I have
live,
like 60
by the way.
subscribers,
Is that okay
and I
with
haven't. Yeah, that's fine by me.
You have how many subscribers?
Okay, sorry, I forgot
like
to mention.
60, and I don't really make content very often or with any regularity.
You must have some magic.
Yeah, 60 subscribers is more than I've ever had.
Mostly I just pass it around with friends of mine on Facebook, and they pass it to their friends.
Cool. So this is Aman, by the way.
Nice to meet you. Oh,
are you two Facebook friends?
I don't think we are. I'm not sure.
Well, maybe you'll add each other at some point then.
Sure.
So what were we talking about, Aman?
We're talking about wars,
War.
and I say that wars can be justified,
Um.
and then I also went on imperialism, and I said that I'm okay with empires as long as the people in the empire are happy.
Sure, and I think as long as that empire upholds certain values, like the British Empire, I'm happy if to this day there was still a British Empire, but
Well,
there's no empires these days, so I guess that's not.
Yeah, the closest thing to an empire we might have is the U.S. bullying people with having more military, but
Yeah, but I'm okay with that too. So it's like whenever I'm debating people on capitalism, they usually bring the U.S.'s foreign policy, and I say that I'm alright with that because of the values that we're spreading using our empire as a
True.
tool.
You know, someone I was discussing this with someone the other day, and he was just mentioning all of the ills of American society, and he mentioned, oh, wars for profit. And I said, wait, hold on a second. What do you mean wars for profit? And he said, oh, well, people sell helmets and machinery and whatnot when there are wars. And I said, wait, so you're basically, your conspiracy is that the only reason we go to wars is to sell helmets and boots and stuff. I mean, that's ridiculous. But I feel like many Americans seem to hold that view. Tell me if I'm incorrect.
I'm not so sure that it's a conspiracy. It's an observation of the fact that a lot of the U.S. economy does rely on the military-industrial complex, but it's not the primary or even the sole reason the U.S. goes to war at all.
Yeah.
Usually the primary reason is the same reason that people have gone to war for centuries, even millennia: resources. I mean, we cover it up everybody covers it up in humanitarian aid or whatever, but it's all about resources.
Yeah. I mean, also it's also well, I guess like it ultimately comes back to that, right? Because you're concerned about a certain country taking power or whatnot if they're going to hurt your efforts to procure resources effectively, right? So I guess ultimately it always comes down to that.
Yeah, I mean, well, from a pure numbers and wholly inhuman point of view, humans are a resource to the countries and governments they live with and in. So places that are that's the best way to phrase this. Places that have values which would cause damage to that specific resource, places such as the more backward areas where Islam still keeps hold, their ideology is a threat to the resources that are the humans in other countries. Now, sure, people will say they're going to war against that ideology, and sure, that's one of the reasons, but the primary reason is that a resource in the country, humans in this case, is being damaged, whether mentally, physically, etc., and the country responds. That is the plain and simple of it.
How about for example, when you're debating socialists, they would say, why do you protect the resources of others? Who gives you the moral authority to do that?
I could say that. Generally, I don't argue with the SJWs as an attempt to persuade them, because most of them are so intractable that...
I mean, not only SJWs, but like non-Marxist socialist-leaning individuals that are anti-SJWs would ask you the same question. They would say that what gives you the authority to do that?
Yeah, what gives you the authority to allocate?
Or the intent, or what motivates your intent?
Yeah. When it comes to people who espouse full socialism, like converting an entire country to 100% socialism, my response is then, well, one, who has the authority to do that out of everybody there? And two, which authority is going to be so pure as to be incorruptible? The second question is the killer, because no authority is incorruptible. Power corrupts. I personally, in my own mind, in a perfect world, would espouse rational anarchy, because at that point, no one needs to be governed by an overarching power because everybody's rational in a perfect world. But the world is hardly perfect. I understand this very, very clearly. I can separate my ideals from what is real. Feels and reals, and I can separate the two. But primarily, I understand why some people want socialist programs into their governments. And in a lot of countries around the world, having partial socialism, about whether it's just about having a healthcare system that's partially socialized or an educational system that's partially socialized, can be beneficial if executed properly. But executing it properly is then a matter of opinion to some people. I mean, people in Canada would say, oh yeah, we have a socialist healthcare system, we all get healthcare. But their queues are also longer, and they don't necessarily get to choose which insurance system they were going to get into, at least not until very recently. For decades, Canada had it illegal to own insurances by more than one insurance provider. And so, again, executing it correctly all comes down to, is it working for you at that point? It's a harsh issue, and it's one that I'm still tussling over, especially considering that I identify with so many libertarian ideals, such as the right to property, the right to private property, the right to association, all of those things.
I think you will like Sargon of Akkad's recent video, if you watched it.
Is it the one where he responded to Dave Cullen responding to the whole live stream they had?
Yeah.
I haven't watched it yet. It was an hour long, and so was Dave. Dave was like an hour and a half long, and then they both said, "Oh, by the way, you should probably go watch the live stream," which is like another 2.5 hours long. I'm just like, oh, I don't want to get in the middle of this.
It sounds too much drama. It sounds like too much drama.
Yeah, it just sounds like.
I mean, Dave went too far though. He called him a quote unquote Marxist.
That I can see that as being an emotional response, and
yeah,
that emotional response isn't. It's not necessary,
Yeah, I mean, it was here's the funny thing though. He was claiming that Sargon of Akkad is an emotional socialist, and the whole time he was replying, he was so emotional. That was kind of cool.
As I said, while certain facets of socialism can work depending on the situation, so can a completely free market. But again, it depends on the situation. And human nature, being as it is, it's going to find a way to exploit either one of those, whether it's socialism or the free market. That exploitation is going to occur. Because humans, and here my misanthropy will show, humans are weak, greedy creatures.
Sorry, just going to interrupt for a second. We have a new person who joined. This is Carmen. Welcome.
I think it's Cameron, actually.
Yeah, I'm trans. It's Carmen.
Carmen?
Oh. Wait a minute, I think I have you on Skype.
on the inside.
I think I have you on Skype, Carmen.
Maybe. I don't know. I just woke up.
Back when you were... you added me to Skype like a long time ago, back when your display name was still Soul Mystique.
Oh, it is on Skype.
Well, I'm talking about your display name on Facebook and here.
Oh, well, yeah, that's what happens when you lose like 15 accounts every year. I'm on my 26th Facebook account. What do you expect?
This year or your whole lifetime?
That doesn't.
You have to use both tunnels and different names because they try to grab both of those anytime someone makes a new account. So stupid. Fucking.
I almost got kicked out of Facebook last month.
Why?
I don't know, they told me to verify my name for some reason. Someone reported my name.
Fuck that shit. if I
Wow.
I just make a new one. I'm like, I'm not fucking. I don't even have a legal ID. Like, I have a driver's license that expired like 3 years. I don't give a fuck.
Someone reported my name a long time ago, and I was like, why? I mean, I can understand my name is spelled pretty weird. Wait.
Xenatrix.
Well,
I mean, all you have to say.
Xanax.
my real name, the one that's on Facebook's. But Xanatrix is the name for my YouTube channel.
I'm just gonna call you Xanax.
I suppose I can have that sort of a calming effect. Wait a minute, what the fuck?
I don't know what Xanax does. I just know the name of it.
Okay, slightly off topic here. Craig McDonald, the ex-admin for the anti-SJW groups, has been banned from his own pages.
Oh my god!
Oh my gosh.
Dude, fucking tell you this shit. The same shit that happened with Ian is happening to Craig.
Well, yeah, as I said just earlier in the stream, power corrupts.
Hey, not me. Not me.
No, me, give me all your power, man.
You think Hold on. Fuck, I don't have a cup. You have no power? Yeah.
Now, what's really funny here is that while I do have a libertarian point of view and am very individualistic and believe in all the personal freedoms for everybody, at the same time, a part of me has a plan in the back of my head that could feasibly take over the entire Earth and make it better, which is extremely authoritarian, but if it gets shit done, I mean...
I don't even politics. I don't know what any of this shit means.
Here's the thing, though, with libertarianism, as long as it's not a government that does it, it's not authoritarian. It's still libertarian as long as it's done by an individual or a collective that is not a state.
Not at the basis. In the basis, libertarian, as implied by the name, liberty, is all about the non-aggression principle, where you don't fuck with anybody else and nobody fucks with you. People who violate the non-aggression principle you can defend against, but you don't go out looking for it. And personal freedoms such as I said, association, personal property, bodily autonomy.
I mean, those would be more classical liberal values than the way they are libertarian values.
We were discussing this yesterday, actually, right? And maybe you'll explain to him.
It's like most people confuse classical liberalism with libertarianism, because when you're saying I'm a libertarian, all you're saying is I don't want the state to do all these things, like take your liberty away.
Well,
but you can't be like
as a political party. Yes, as a political party, that's true. As a philosophy, it's much different. The philosophy of libertarianism is, as I said, the non-aggression principle, the personal liberties.
For example, I talk with different people on the libertarian spectrum, including those who are in the alt-right, and one of the clear explanations they gave me is, we want to do almost everything that an authoritarian state would do, but it's libertarianism because it's not the state that does it. It's the individuals that do it.
Well, and you see, that's almost like saying that libertarianism is just authoritarianism minus collectivism and government. And that's not true. Authoritarianism is asserting rule over others, whether it's an individual that does it, because an individual who rules is a monarch, by definition. Or a dictator, even better, by definition. They are dictating the rules. They are a system of government unto themselves. a collective doing the same thing. It's statism. It's still a form of government. Once you take control and start telling others what to do, you've flipped from libertarian to authoritarian because you're telling others what to do. You are infringing on their ability to choose to do it. And that's where the difference lies. Authoritarians tell you what to do. Libertarians generally leave you alone, but if they think they need your help, they'll ask you to help. They won't
I should make
force
a debate
you.
my alt-right friend called Matt. He's quite cool.
What's his name?
Is he an
Matt.
ANCAP?
Hmm?
Is he ANCAP?
Yeah.
What does ANCAP mean? Oh, anarcho-capitalism.
Anarcho-capitalism.
Anarcho. Oh God, I don't.
So these. Sorry, continue.
Oh, no, I'm just laughing. You go ahead.
Dude,
So
he made us laugh because we're looking at he's like an anarchist, and then we're looking at all his values one by one, and then we started with the LGBT rights, and then he's like, they shouldn't have the right to go out and practice or do whatever they want. And then I'm like,
Is he
well, that sounds
religious?
authoritarian. Nope, he's an atheist.
Seriously, what's his? Am I friends with him on Facebook? I'm not familiar with this person.
He-
Matt, what's his last name?
Let me check his last name.
Sure would be great if I knew what these words meant.
Okay, so I'll break it down for you,
I know
Carmen.
what capitalism is, and I know what anarchism is.
Yeah.
So I know what those two things mean. It's just you guys had a long-ass fucking conversation prior to that, and I was like, what the fuck is
Okay.
going on?
Carmen, here's
I think it's Matthew Erdy. That's his name.
here's the thing.
Hmm.
Libertarianism, just break it down. It's a belief in personal freedom and non-aggression. You don't fuck with people, people don't fuck with you. If somebody fucks with you, you have a right to defend yourself. You have the right to things like personal property, association, bodily autonomy, etc. Essentially, do as thou wilt, so long as you do not enforce it on others. Whereas authoritarianism is, the best way would be the parent who grounded you all the time for the stupidest little shit. That's the best way to explain it. Like the parent who says, no, you can't go out because you didn't finish your dinner. That's an authoritarian stance right there.
Good. Fuck my mom.
You should definitely debate Matthew, man. That would be so awesome to watch. Especially on LGBT rights and everything like that.
Man.
What? Why does he Why is he against LGBT rights exactly?
He believes in traditionalism.
Hmm?
He's a tradcan in a way.
He's an ANCAP and a TradCon at the same time.
Seriously? So he basically thinks it's bad for society or something? I mean, that's what conservatives think.
Well,
that's
that's what extreme conservatives say. Oh God.
And so
Interesting.
we're talking about movies, and then he was like, the movies today are robbing the childhood of our children by including the LGBT agenda in it. I was like, what?
Man, I
Well,
want
that's bizarre.
up so much of the LGBT community. Pisses me the fuck off.
I can debate this guy later. I do have to run an errand here now. If this is still up, I'll come back to it.
No,
It probably will be.
here now. Probably, I'm saying next time, another time.
Okay, but like even then, if this hangout is still up when I come back from my errands, I'll hop back on.
Awesome.
Sounds great. Hope to see you back.
Yep. Peace out.
Bye.
Man. You can tell I just woke up.
What time is it where you live?
It is 4:59. I woke up at like 4:40 p.m.
It's 5:59 here.
Man, fucking, I want to like backhand the part of the LGBT community that thinks gay marriage happening was like progress. It's like, no, they did it out of annoyance, not fucking respect, you retarded ape. Didn't actually fucking achieve anything. That's like poking someone in the back of the head, trying to make them get up out of their seat. It's like, they did it out of annoyance. They're gonna come back and fuck with you later. You didn't fix the problem. You just got a temporary seat.
How do you think the problem will be fixed?
Respect. Earning respect is better than, like, if Black Lives Matter wasn't such a retarded ass fucking overly violent monkey movement, and I'm black, I can say that. They would get respect. So many people have been like, yo, if Black Lives Matter actually went about this shit peacefully, that I would at least try to understand. People are like, their Black Lives Matter isn't violent. I'm like, my initial question is, point me to the non-violent Black Lives Matter protesters. And they're like, I'm one of them. I'm like, you're sitting on your fucking computer bitching on Facebook. You don't count. That's not a no true Scotsman. You're a fucking slacktivist. You're not actually doing anything. You lying sack of donkey boners.
Let's see.
What do you think? What do you think? Would be about Black Lives Matter in general? Maybe everyone can say articulate their opinion.
I mean, on Black Lives Matter, my stance is the earlier Black Lives Matter was a libertarian movement, but now the feminists have already taken over it, and it's now a communist movement. That's why it's anti-having body cams. It wants reparations.
I may be a sociopathic asshole, but that guy getting hit by a car was fucking hilarious.
Which guy?
What is he?
This nigga was you know how they do those fucking illegal ass protests in the middle of highways?
Yeah.
This motherfucker.
Dude, did you hear what Trump said today?
No, what did he say?
Oh, Trump said that he would be more popular than fried chicken and watermelon in the black community.
Oh my god, seriously?
I love this motherfucker.
Yo, he doesn't give a damn what anyone thinks of him.
Fuck no, he doesn't. And he knows that, like, the overly hateful, like, I hate white people part of the black community is like a fucking tiny goddamn margin. Because they don't give a shit. The ones who have a sense of humor are gonna fucking laugh.
Yeah.
I mean, wait, I love him more than chickens, man. He should send me some KFC, man.
I mean, literally for me, it's like, as long as Hillary doesn't win, I don't give a shit.
For me, I would say I prefer Hillary over Trump or anyone else.
Me too. Me too. High five.
It's just like the kind of person Hillary is in general that makes me not like her.
I mean, okay, I like her policies, so I go by her policies, not by her personal shit.
Like, at least Trump will tell us before he nukes us. Hillary will fucking walk around handing out candy so we're happy when it happens. I'm like,
yes, that is a good mother, man.
Exactly.
Hillary Clinton, I'll hand you out candy before I bomb you, so at least you're happy when it happened. The message was approved by Hillary Clinton administration.
Dude, the only thing I hate about Hillary is her PC stance, and the only thing I like about Trump is his anti-PC stuff.
Dude, Hillary's not PC.
Yeah.
She's a lying sack of shit who just wants votes.
But I mean, okay, I kind of love
so it's Trump. Trump. So it's Trump. I mean,
man,
most of them just don't vote.
I can't even tell if Trump's a liar though. Like, he's just so fucking out there. Like,
yeah. I mean, he contradicts himself, and so does Hillary, though.
Like, at least the votes he gets are from people who actually agree with the actions he's taken in the present and in the past.
I don't think so. I mean, if you ask most people the things, like, for example, most of his voters don't know about Trump University.
What is a Trump University, and why does this exist, and should it be nuked? I'm going to show you how to make money.
Dude, you should watch the feminist Trump voter who was on Amazing Atheists YouTube channel in his podcast, and then he ended up asking her if she would vote for Trump, and then she said yes, and then he told her, would you go to Trump University? And then she said yes.
Yes! As long as they don't
Wow.
fire me. My
And then he asked her,
small loan of $1 million.
dude, he asked her if she would eat some Trump steaks, and then she said, well, if there is still some, I'll eat them, because she doesn't know anything
How
about
many
it.
ounces are they?
I don't remember, it was like, I think it
They're
was,
not real. That's how many.
That's my first question, because I'm a hungry motherfucker from the South. You'd be like, hey, you want a steak of unknown origins? I'm like, how many fucking ounces is that bitch?
Right.
People get mad at me for not
Hello.
liking a lot of meat, and I'm like, I'm from the fucking South. You hand me something, you hand me a fucking steak with a tomato on top of it, I will eat them.
hello, newcomer. You can introduce yourself.
This is Jessica, my Facebook friend. Maybe you're friends with these guys too. I'm not sure.
Welcome to the stream.
Dude, you should consider becoming an actor, man. You're good at improvising voices.
You should have a YouTube channel.
I do have a
Seriously.
YouTube channel.
Yeah?
What's the name?
Yeah, sure. Send us the link.
Oh, it's just the Fur Crew. You should be able to get to it through my Google, whatchamacallit.
How many followers do you have?
Do you mean subscribers? I
uh,
swear to God, I deal with this on a daily basis. I will fucking eat you. I have like 2,500, but a lot of those are from a
yo,
video
that's
that
a
I
lot.
made when I first started my channel. I don't upload every day. Like because I'm clinically depressed, so like I have these days where I'm like, I'm feeling good today. I think I'm gonna record some videos, and then I'll release those videos for like the next week, and then I'll be back in a rut, and I'm like, fuck. Oh, it's so bad. Yeah, no, I have an Instagram though, which I've started posting to, which is mostly just shitty fucking like videos of me doing voices and singing. To the moon with you. I like to have fun. What with that being the only good thing in life.
Did anyone here buy the old Tommy Sotomayor show of TJ?
What?
What? So, Tommy Sotomayor versus TJ? There's such a video.
No. TJ made a show called the old Tommy Sotomayor show, and it's $3,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't buy it.
I haven't watched
It's TJ trying
they-
to psychologically analyze Tommy Sotomayor and break down his talking
Yeah.
points.
The Amazing Atheist hates him, right?
Yeah, they hate each other because he dropped the race card when they were making fun of each other.
Okay.
And the funny thing is,
talking about race or
and the funny thing is, the funny thing is here though, Tommy Sotomayor said that blacks chose to be slaves, and then
Okay.
the Amazing Atheist in reply said no, they didn't, and then in the reply they made fun of Tommy Sotomayor and they said that because he hates women, he would sleep with watermelons and fuck watermelons.
Dude, I'd sleep.
And then Tommy Sotomayor in reply was like, "That's racist," and he never replied to the rest of the video. He just dropped the race card.
I actually I'm proud to say, I got through an hour of Tommy Sotomayor and David Duke last night. I have to say I lost a little bit of respect for Tommy Sotomayor. Yeah, it sounds like he believes in the Jewish conspiracies.
Yeah, he's just trying to please people who watch him because he contradicts himself. He's just like Alex Jones. Did you see the Alex Jones versus David Duke?
Oh my gosh, no, but David Duke said that Alex Jones was offended by his conspiratorial views about the Jews, which wow. And also Cenk Uygur, I mean, I like Cenk Uygur more now, Alex Jones more now, because they're so much better in contrast.
The funny part,
to David Duke.
dude, the funny part of David Duke versus Alex Jones is that Alex Jones tried to make it as if a humanist thing, and he was like, humans are evil and everything like that. And then this guy was like, there is no any time when whites were evil.
Humans are
Seriously?
cunts.
Yeah, and then he blamed the Holocaust on the Jews and everything like that.
No, but seriously, fuck the Jews.
Dude, that was like the cool. Dude, also you should watch Alex Jones versus Louis Farrakhan.
I haven't watched
No,
any of
that
these
sounds interesting.
shit so goddamn long. Like, it's been. I don't know.
I enjoy all Alex Jones shows because he's quite entertaining.
He is,
I haven't
yeah.
watched much lately.
That's good.
So
Yeah.
even if I don't like the things the idiotic things he says, I'll just watch them just for the entertainment value.
Hello.
What's up, James?
How you
Oh,
doing, man?
Shit. Yeah.
All right, my man.
Fucking.
Oh, what's going on?
You know, hey, you know what's even weirder? Hearing this voice come from this, you can tell my fucking hair's all fucked up. Hearing this voice from this face.
Hi everyone. How are you all doing?
Oh shit, is that like a real mic in front of you? Like something official? Oh wow. What are you in a studio?
That's my closet. This is my room.
Oh, sick room. Yeah, I'm cooking as I do this. Multitasking.
It's a Rode NT1A.
You didn't provide Beefy's voice, man.
Oh, dude, you can blame like fucking Neanners and MLP for the reason I can do that voice.
My Little Pony is MLP.
MLP.
Wow. See, we are having a party tonight. That's why James is cooking for us.
Oh,
So who's here? I
make
see.
fried chicken. I need to get all fried chicken, my nigga.
I have been.
Yo, I need some Trump on the chicken because I love Trump more than chicken.
I can just fucking whip out the shit.
So who's 50 Shades?
50 Shades of Dick.
What did you say?
Who is the 50 Shades guy? What's your name?
Oh, my name is Aman.
I'm
On
up.
Facebook?
What did you say?
What's your name on Facebook? Like where I would have seen you.
Probably Aman. You would see me in the intelligentsia or
Okay.
who is echoing?
I know the two on the left. I remember him from the groups, and you lament. I can never pronounce your name. How do you pronounce your name? Say it again.
Guillemette. Guillemette.
Oh wow, pretty name.
Thanks.
Oh.
You
James
can
is preparing dinners for us, man. You should respect him, man.
Jessica Butthole. Jessica
Right.
Cat Butthole.
That's what we're
He's
eating.
cooking some Trump steaks.
Dog.
What about me?
Someone say tramp stamps?
No, Trump steaks.
You put tramp stamps on the tramp steaks. What up? I mean that's all women are, right? Just slabs of
Pretty much. I'm a woman and I'll confirm.
am woman can confirm am slab of meat, not even steak tier, just pork chop tier.
I'm another king dragon, and as an observer, I would say that's true.
Walmart grade.
Yeah, fucking Walmart. Not even Kroger. We get the good old Piggly Wiggly tier steaks, yo. What up?
What do you do with your studio, man? Like, what for music, or you do like talk? You like record like talk radio type style, or like podcast type style stuff?
I do whatever I feel like at the time. I mentioned I have clinical depression earlier, so like what I do is really like random, because like I'll get into a rut, and then I'll get out of the rut and I'll be like, oh, if I can do something. And then I'll do something. But I sing, I write lyrics, and I do YouTube.
Wow, you should make a song for me, man.
That's
Do you
cool.
rap?
I can't make music. I can only write lyrics and sing.
Do you rap though?
I can rap easy.
Of course, because
I prefer double time,
know.
but I think
all
the
black guys
fastest.
can rap.
I don't know how fast it is, but someone told me I almost hit 320 beats per minute
Jesus.
once. I don't really know how fast that is, but that's the fastest I've rapped.
320 beats per minute. Let me picture that. I don't even know how to like imagine how fast that is.
I think speedcore is like 500, 600.
Okay, that actually does help me. I know what speedcore.
I'm going to smoke a lot of crack. Fucking take the pill, snort the pill, eat.
See, man, I told you all, man, it's going to be a party tonight. That's why we have someone singing for us on the background, someone preparing dinner. It's my house. Now tell me what you two girls are going to bring.
We got the tits.
We got the tits.
It's not a party without the tits.
It's not a party without the what?
Yeah, she needs the booty too.
Hey, just because I'm not a chick yet doesn't mean I don't got the tits. Fucking. Fucking live in Mississippi.
Drugs?
Fucking deep south. This place is shitty.
Who's bringing the drugs?
I mean.
Unless one of us. Oh boy.
What's up? I almost died one time doing that shit. Well,
yes, I keep a can of spray paint and compressed air behind my screen. I've actually got two screens. I keep that like fucking behind my screen over there. I've actually got two screens, yo. What up?
Oh shit.
Two screens just to blankly stare at. No, I'm gonna get a third one from a friend. I need a third one. So that's the wall of shit that occasionally falls down. That's fucking Snort a Lot of Crack by Kitsune Squared.
Same.
That's the name of the song. It's a speedcore song. Or not Kitsune Squared by the Quick Brown Fox. Anyway, it's Bernard. Bernard's made a lot of fucking meme songs like Avast Your Ass and fucking Rainbow Tylenol and Coward Killing Time. Furries, produce your fucking memes, plebs.
I should stream my cat. It's being crazy.
Where do I know your name from, Jessica?
Buttholes.
Anti-SJW? The group?
Yeah, probably. Probably where I noticed. Well, I know I've seen Cameron in the old Off Topic. That's
you want some fuck, maybe?
Oh, Off Topic. Do you know?
I think I've changed.
It's not popular, but I made a thing called Arachnida, and I sometimes make videos.
Fuck spiders.
No, it's not from that. Okay. It's from Anti.
Dying.
So why did you guys join the Anti-SJW club?
Let's get
Anti-SJW group.
What's up?
Why did you join the Anti-SJW group?
Because I wanted to get dick.
Oh, hi, hey, what's up? I'm me.
Because those articles used to crack me up, but like, I think people are taking it a little too seriously now. I used to just laugh at that. That shit was the way people would react.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. But yeah, it's like becoming like less of a joke. And I think people take it seriously. That's what I'm starting to notice, or I've been starting to notice it for a while. But yeah, I don't know. How about you guys?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
How did you get into?
Why did I join Anti-SJW?
Yeah, that's what 50 Shades asked.
Oh, because I could.
Okay.
Because I'm a selfish asshole who doesn't want people fucking with my shit. I'm too much of a apathetic piece of shit to care about other people's problems.
Oh.
I'm just a selfish cunt.
Same.
That was my whole reason for, like, bothering with Gamergate, because niggas were fucking with my video games. I don't give a fuck about what everyone else wants. I just don't want my shit to get fucked with.
Well, that's how I heard about it. I heard about it through Gamergate. That's how I. Yeah.
Oh, I think I got added in there through like fucking the old Gamergate Ultras group, which turned into trash because Ian was a fucking psychopathic drunk.
Because who was a psychopathic drunk?
The fucking Ian, the dude who fucking admined it.
Oh, gotcha.
That nigga. That nigga. He fucking blocked me from the group because I didn't have an opinion one way or the other on Gamergate or issues. It's like, no, I don't give a shit about other people, what they want. I know what I want. That's why I'm here. He's like, oh fucking, I don't know if we can trust you if you don't have an opinion on the topic. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
No, I have the utmost respect for that. There's so many things I just don't have an opinion on. I'm proud of it. Like a lot of things I don't care about, or like I can't actually know whether I'm right or wrong. So why am I gonna have an opinion on it?
Oh, I'm like a borderline sociopath or some shit. Like I cannot empathize with people if I haven't experienced something.
You should get a kitten.
I have 2 dogs. My grandma has 2 cats. You know what I'm talking about? Good old Gilf.
Power
I'll stop.
Check nothing off.
What is that in the background? What's that bright blue light?
What's up?
What's that bright blue light?
That is a fish tank. Yeah. A fish tank. Here, I'll bring it over.
You should try putting a shark
dirty
in there.
fish tank. Can
Put
you
a shark
see
in there.
It's
I
a
wanna see
dirty
a shark.
tank with genetically modified fish that can glow a lot.
Wow! You should go to prison right now.
How dare you? How dare you modify my fish? You should put the fish in gourds. Oh fuck. People always mistake me for like insultingly mocking them whenever I do their voice or like their type of accent or try to. It's like, nah. It's like, how else do you expect me to learn to do impressions? Like, what do you fucking? That's what I do. I have a measuring tape.
What do you measure?
Dick.
That.
Praying for an extra inch every time, right?
Hoping the pills work.
Let's see. Guys,
So what's one of the issues you care in the anti-SJW camp about?
What did you say? Say
What
so.
issues do you care?
The issues that arise.
Yeah.
What issues do I care about? Or there's some I think that are important. I think the stuff in Europe looks pretty important. Like, I think that's like actually important. I think a lot of the political correctness stuff, I don't think is that important, but it's really fucking stupid. I think there are those people that are like very that try to be politically correct or want that, or it just sounds retarded. I don't know. That's where I'm at with that.
I agree.
Where would you put yourself in the right to left dichotomy?
I'm sorry?
In the right to left, like right wing or left wing dichotomy, where do you find yourself?
Left to moderate. Moderate left.
In the middle.
Yeah.
Are you authoritarian or libertarian?
Libertarian. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of find myself in the. I'm in between individualist, unindividualist, and.
Where are you at?
A right-wing individualist, and I'm in between a right-wing individualist and a liberal.
Okay.
So, I kind of find myself at times being too liberal and at times being too conservative.
Oh yeah. I've experienced the same thing. For sure.
What would be the most conservative value you hold?
Moderate people are I mean, it seems like you're gonna fight with everyone these days.
I mean, I'm not a moderate. I'm a radical, but I am a radical, but someone who is in between. A radical who is.
You have extreme views on both sides. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah.
Gotcha. So you average out to moderate, but you got a wide spread.
Yep.
Cool.
I mean, there are things that when I tell people, they're like, "Oh, that sounds so authoritarian."
Mhm.
Like if in a normal voting season, I would vote for liberal, but if I were to vote for my ideal type, it would probably be an authoritarian right-wing government.
Mhm.
Because I would be okay with having some form of eugenics.
Oh, that's very extreme. That's very fringe.
But I'm not saying like the way we had it at that time. I'm saying like we need to discover the genetics more.
Oh, okay. No. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I mean, I
understand your point.
Yeah, I'm just saying it is radical. Like most people would consider that have an opinion on it would consider that radical. I would think.
Yeah.
Yes.
But my stance would be more of like we have to study the human genes and find the best genes, and make the people with the best genes more likely to procreate.
Right.
Genes and environment.
You like work towards a better future. Like make sure like people are nice, like good and intelligent and all that stuff. Right.
Yeah.
Like.
Or we can euthanize the people who are retarded.
No, I'm not for euthanizing anyone. I don't want to limit their liberty, but I give them financial incentive to not producing. For example,
Did that last part one more time?
I'll give them financial interest for not producing if they are producing has a bad impact.
You want to give them an incentive to not keep their kids.
Yeah, for example, I would destroy the welfare state we have right now. I'll change the current welfare state system, and I'll reward women who don't produce in poverty more than the way I reward women who produce in poverty.
Gotcha. So you're not really forcing anyone, you're just giving incentives.
Yeah.
Thanks.
It's kind of like, you want some meat here? you got around for it, you know?
Oh, I gotta look at what's wrong with my fish tank. I'm listening, guys. I'm just trying to figure out what's wrong with my fish tank.
Awesome.
Because I unplugged
Maybe if you stop putting your dick in it, it would work. Gosh.
That's not even an option on the table.
Pretty quiet in here.
How far would you go with protecting animals' rights?
I mean, they deserve to be treated right, but
Roxanne?
I'm an omnivore. I'm still gonna eat meat. So.
All I did was turn on the red switch there. I didn't realize that
the power thing?
Yeah, power strip was turned off.
Okay.
You never press the red button.
What?
So my friend on my laptop.
Oh, okay. The red button.
Red button. Okay. Cool. Thanks.
That's an interesting question. Maybe we should discuss animal rights more if everyone's interested in that topic.
I'm a huge fan of animals.
I love animals. I think if you hunt them for not eating and just sport, I think it's kind of shitty. That's what I think.
But here's a question though: how far would you go to protect animals' rights?
Well, I can answer. I'm guessing I'm the most radical person here. I think that with rare exceptions, it should be illegal to kill animals for food, at least in civilized countries.
For food?
Yeah, to kill them. No, for any reason, other than perhaps you could morally justify certain sorts of medical testing. That's more.
I mean, here's the thing though. You could also morally justify that you need to give it as a food to some people because some people need meat to live.
Sure. I mean, obviously, those are the cases in which those are the rare exceptions which I mentioned. there's obviously going to be exceptions, but generally, I think it's morally absolutely unjustifiable to eat meat for almost everyone.
Okay. Do you think that the animals' right transcends human liberty?
Absolutely.
Which one do you value more?
Sure, because I don't value human liberty. I value liberty of persons, and I think most animals we eat, but many animals, I think we ought to consider them persons. So I value them.
Interesting.
I mean, because go ahead, Justin.
You know, animals kill each other to eat. So do you think people are like? You think people should be above that? Is that what you think?
Well, of course we are, because I can't remember who's. Sorry, I wasn't watching the screen. As someone just mentioned, we're able to Cameron just mentioned that. Yeah, we're able to comprehend our own existence. Our computational power is different than other animals. So, given the fact that we can comprehend our own existence, we can contemplate the past, the future. We have an imagination. Given all of these things, that's based on that, we've come up with a moral system. We're able to comprehend the future consequences and whatnot. So, given that, we're not like an animal that's not able to do that. That's not aware of its own consciousness. So that's why we're accountable.
Do you think that people then have a higher value? Do people's lives have higher values than animals in that case?
Definitely humans, given that they're more sentient. There's obviously a continuum of consciousness. So obviously humans definitely are more conscious than other animals. So our lives generally matter more because we have more interests. But I wouldn't say that our interest to enjoy the taste of something supersedes an animal's right to live, to take away their entire life. So on that basis, I would say it's not morally justifiable to kill them for food, unless obviously it's for survival reasons.
Mm-hmm. You know, I know that there's like certain proteins that you can only get from animals. There's like 2, right? And I think
there's vitamin B12.
Right. I know carnosine.
And
talking about the amino acids, I think. Now the carnosine, right, is one of them. It's like good for
Actually, I don't know.
I think it's carnosine. I could be wrong. It's supposed to be good for it's supposed to be important for like a healthy heart and stuff. You don't think that so the benefits from that, the long-term benefits from that, is not really comparable to the life of an animal, though, right? Do you understand what I'm trying to?
Yeah, sure. I'm not even sure. I mean, perhaps if it did greatly affect the quality and the potential length of a human's life, we would definitely, that would be more complicated. But as far as I know, if you were to take supplements, every study that's tried to look at this has seen there's no medical detriment whatsoever to being vegan or vegetarian. Some studies even suggest it can expand your life. So at the very least, we can agree it's not going to shorten your life. So given that we have technology, so of course, if there is people who must eat meat, obviously, definitely, it's morally justifiable for them to. But most of us are not eating meat for our survival. We're eating it because we like the taste and for convenience. Those aren't good enough reasons to take something's life.
It's for the taste. I like it. I like eating animals because they taste good. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna really say it's for the carnosine. That's bullshit. Like I was just smoking a month ago. You know? I can't really say that.
I mean, on the morality though, it's like I'm like, okay, would you be okay with eating animals if they were manufactured rather than
what do you
the
mean
way they are? Right?
You mean like in a laboratory, right?
Yeah.
Synthesized. Yeah.
Like cloned meat, like when you just grow the straight meat.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Without any brain to it or anything like that. Just that.
Just
totally
growing
okay
the
with
steak.
that.
Yeah, I think
and I've heard it's pretty delicious too. So.
I think everyone would agree to that if there was such thing. I think that will ultimately be the answer to this moral question.
Yeah.
It's just costly.
It's costly now. Maybe not in the future. Maybe. Everything's maybe, right?
But if we are to have animals, they have to die in some way.
I'm sorry?
Like,
What were you saying? Sorry, Rod.
the animals
saying
have to
something?
die. I'm saying that the animals have to die in some way.
Sorry. Sorry, Cameron. What were you saying about? Sorry, I think we talked over him.
Did we? I didn't hear him.
Me neither.
I don't see him either.
He's like the cat-looking guy. Huh? So it's, for me with animal rights, it's like, okay, if we don't eat them, then there will be someone to eat them at the end of the day. The question is who should eat them, because there is finite problems with there is infinite problems, but finite resources to make them solved. So there's.
I think that's. So you're saying they're going to die anyway? Well, actually, I've often pondered. That's a great question, Aman. Given that we know that being an animal in the wild, we know that too is a painful existence. They're often facing starvation. They die in very painful ways. So that too is, I would say, is terrible. And honestly, purely hypothetically speaking, I would say that it would be best if there were no animals on Earth except those which we were able to care for and prevent from undergoing a painful, difficult existence.
That just sounds boring. Who's gonna hunt all the lions and get on national news?
I mean, like, I support hunting and all that because it does fund money for reserves.
That's true. Good point.
I prefer having a hunt death rather than a death penalty, and then like put all the criminals in a cage and like have them shoot each other, you know?
Like the Dangerous Game. You've read that, Aman?
Nope. But it would be cool though to watch them kill each other and then have one of them get out. And then, you know, like the media makes the rest of us watch the whole thing, and then we don't have the industrial prison complex. We have the zoo prison complex instead.
I mean, but
because,
what if they aren't guilty for their crime and they were falsely convicted?
Well, they all have to work harder, man, because they've got to survive.
I mean, because then if you get a guy in there for a false rape accusation.
I mean, I don't believe that the punishment for rape should be the death penalty.
Me too.
I'm pretty sure if it happens, there's going to be some states where it's going to be extreme, or some countries.
I believe that, for example, if it depends on the... I mean, they'll always... Okay, but I think in my ideal world, the punishment for rape would be more of castration.
Me too. Oh, we think everything the same.
Wait. In your ideal world, you're saying it would be castration?
Yeah, if someone repeats a rape offense, yeah.
If someone what? Repeat offense?
A rape offense.
Oh, a rape offense. Oh, yeah. I've heard that punishment being.
Or they should be used for medical testing.
Yeah,
because
maybe.
If they got I think you would need strong. I think you would need DNA evidence for me. DNA evidence.
Yeah, I do.
Videos.
Yeah, sure.
You would need to be 100% this guy definitely raped her before they did that. But I would agree to that as the actual punishment.
Yeah.
As far as I know, anecdotally, there's this professor there's this mathematics professor at the university, and apparently.
Oh, at AM?
Tel Aviv University.
Okay.
Oh, hi, welcome back.
Thank you.
Yeah. So anyway, sorry, I was just telling everyone that we were pondering the question of what would be an ideal punishment for rape, and I was just going to I was anecdotally telling this tale. At Tel Aviv University, there's this mathematics professor who apparently he is a flasher. and he decided to flash some people, and I guess he's a repeat offender, and I guess his punishment is he takes a medical castration. I mean, it's not irreversible, but he takes medication which suppresses some sexual thing about him. So perhaps that's a workable type of punishment.
Actually, chemical castration works really well, from what I understand, in parts of Scandinavia as well.
Mm-hmm.
Harsher offenders, such as actual sexual assaulters and rapists, rather than the non-violent offenders, such as flashers, indecent exposure, etc.
Mm-hmm.
They get a full set of chemical castration meds that basically they can't even get aroused properly.
Interesting.
But for women and men, or is it only for men?
As far as I'm aware, it's for both sexes, but as we all know, rape laws are skewed, so it's mostly men because rape laws are made mostly about penetration. For non-violent offenders, what happens to them is much what happens to the professor in Tel Aviv you just mentioned. They get a lesser version of the chemical castration stuff that gears down those deviant impulses.
But should flashing be a crime, though? You said you are a libertarian, so why would you be against flashing? That is a victimless crime.
I never said that I was or wasn't. I said that is a crime. However, I wouldn't argue that it's 100% victimless depending on circumstances. If a flasher is out in public and naked, I don't give a fuck. I don't. Circumcisions.
You know what's interesting is I actually in my job I bathe. I'm taking care of 4 young girls, and I bathe them. Obviously, they're naked, and I mentioned that they're 2 of them are 6 years old, and they often walk around the house naked and whatnot. And I mentioned it to my boyfriend, and he was shocked, and he thinks that it's immoral. He doesn't know why, but he thinks there's something wrong with them walking around the house. He's not even sure if children should be naked on the beach, and I explained to him that's purely it's just the only reason we think this way is just because we have a puritanical society since around Victorian times. It's not always been this way in Western society, and so we, for some reason, and I don't know why, we consider nudity something much more taboo than was the case in ancient history.
Yeah, in places like Celtic history, Viking history. There's a bunch of stuff. Well, ultimately, my view as a libertarian is I don't give a fuck if somebody's naked out in public. I really don't. But they had better be prepared for all the consequences that comes with, including heckling and quote unquote the harassment that is catcalling. If a hot person is going down the street naked, they are going to get people calling out, going, saying all the things about their attributes. That's gonna happen. And
do you think they're being an asshole by doing it, though? Not that they don't have the right, and believe me, I don't want to hear someone whine about them being catcalled, but do you think the guy's still being an asshole? Taking that stuff into account.
Somebody catcalling, it really depends on how. It's all contextual. If somebody says, yo, like that guy who was running up to news reporters a year and a half back saying, fuck her right in the pussy. Yeah, that
was fake, I think.
I don't know if that was fake. He appeared at multiple different newscasts. He'd run up and he'd grab their microphone, or he'd pose as somebody who had witnessed something and then say it in a microphone.
Did you see the guy?
No, you're right. I think the original one was fake when it was supposedly a newscaster that said, isn't that maybe I'm getting it mixed up. Just continue.
I don't.
Besides the point.
I don't remember.
Okay.
But him running up and saying that stuff, he has the right to do it. I mean, he has the right to do it in public. I'm not so sure that I would count it interfering with newscasters, because that could be seen as part of interfering with their livelihood. Like, people waving in the background and saying it is one thing. Running up and grabbing the microphone and doing it, that's my issue. That's kind of that is almost a violation of non-aggression in my opinion. But him just going out and saying that on camera, yeah, he can say that. He's being kind of a dick, but he can say it. So somebody catcalling saying I'm gonna fuck you right in the pussy to somebody who's a hot chick walking around, you know, yeah, he's catcalling and he's kind of a dick about it. Then there are those guys who go, "Hey, beautiful." There's literally nothing. Yeah, there's literally nothing dickish about it. Literally nothing dickish about it.
Yeah, actually, there was my friend, and he was telling me his story about how he told one girl something along the lines of, "You have a nice ass," and she told him that he's a misogynist.
Oh boy. Are we talking about catcalling? Oh boy. I have so much experiences with catcalling in Toronto, but it doesn't bother me. That's the thing.
In New York City, it depends on the neighborhood. It really does.
I live in the ghetto in Toronto.
Well,
when I was living in Harlem, I saw it a lot. Yeah.
Like I said, it's all contextual. Depending on what you say, the more dickish you're being. Saying, "Hey, you have a nice ass," you know, that's just an observation. You looked at their ass, you went, "Damn," and you saw they had a nice ass. Yes, I like the Friday movies. Shoosh.
My friend was kind of annoyed by the fact that there was another guy who said the same thing to her, and she never called him misogynist, but she called this guy misogynist.
It depends on your attractive level too.
No, he said that the only difference was the way they looked, and she kind of preferred the other guy. So, since she liked the other guy, the other guy was quote unquote not misogynist, but this girl was a misogynist because she never liked him.
Ah, yes, the double standard.
Usually,
you can only hit on a woman if you're an attractive man with a large bank account.
Now, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, there's also a difference in how, like, I've noticed minorities, especially like black women, they tend to, when you call them beautiful in the street, they tend to say thank you and smile, like.
Because they're used to it. They've been born and raised in the hood. They know it's common.
And they
just like
it.
me.
Actually,
I'm gonna say it's probably because a lot of minorities in the U.S. tend to have an income disparity problem, and I don't know if that rises from the fact. I don't know whether the income disparity rises from the fact of low education, or if low education played into income disparity over the years. Right now, it's just a self-perpetuating cycle. Low education leads to income disparity, leads to more criminal activity, and the cycle continues.
I think on average they have a culture that's has like kind of provides them with better social skills. To be honest. I think they got great social skills.
In some situations and with some minorities, I would agree with you. But then we've got the people in Black Lives Matter.
Oh God.
Yeah.
True.
It all depends. It all depends on how they react to a situation or act upon it.
Right.
But how many black people though are in Black Lives Matter? That's what it also comes down to. Like.
I mean, like, it's not.
That's a good question. Has there been surveys? I mean, what percentage of black people?
I know there's a survey down from 66% to 33%, I guess.
What?
In early Black Lives. Yeah, in early Black Lives Matter, it was about 67%, and now it's about 33%.
Right. That agree. That not even like protesters though. Like it's like about that. Like it's around 70% think that.
Black Lives Matter is doing the right thing.
White lives matter. I mean, all lives matter. They prefer that phrase, all lives matter. That's not including actually like who is actually in the Black Lives Matter movement. It's just a preference.
But Black Lives Matter will grow though.
No, actually, they're shrinking because of the violence. Especially because of the violence they've met upon people, and because of the highways they continue to close down, they're shrinking in the U.S.
I'm saying they'll grow in terms of their bad ideas, not in terms of their.
Yeah, sure. I mean, has anyone read their manifesto? I mean, they're.
No, I haven't.
They're just straight up calling for communism in America. I mean, I don't think that resonates with most of Americans.
No, it doesn't. We're way too individualistic for communism. We are not. society.
Yo, guys, did you go to the Repressions website?
Which website?
The Repressions website?
What is that?
It's a website where black guys go and ask for reparations.
Oh, reparations?
Yeah.
Oh, they're still on that shit?
Dude, I went on there and I made several attempts to just see how idiotic they are.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of the things I posted was, I want a white girl who is 165 pounds or less. And then they were like, oh, you're a sizist. And that's a form of oppression.
Did you guys see the study by that black Harvard professor on the shooting on minorities and whites being shot or beat?
Yeah, sure. Mm-hmm.
Wasn't that interesting?
It is.
How it had
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
it had like actual like reality in there. It had a mixed kind of conclusion. I thought it was good.
I mean, obviously, some people have objected to the fact that data was voluntarily handed over, and so some people aren't sure if that's generalizable, and some people have said perhaps the only reason they released it is because they know they're not culpable, according to the stats that they have there.
I didn't comb through the study. I only got like partially way through it. I'm gonna make my way through the whole thing. I want to.
My big view, my entire view.
Did anyone actually read the whole thing though? I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just want to before we move on. Did anyone read the whole thing or no?
I haven't yet. No.
Okay.
But my whole view on the women and minorities and LGBT people first thing that the regressive left gets into is because of their collectivist mentality, they generalize everybody into a monolithic whole.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You can't generalize anybody. I mean, people are like, oh, these cops are shooting unarmed black people, and I'm like, but they're also shooting armed black people. And in fact, in Milwaukee, it was an armed black man pointing a stolen gun at a black cop. That was proven. We have the footage to prove it.
Right.
I mean, almost everyone is on board with that, though. I think. Yeah. I think it's just minority people that aren't.
While cops shoot more unarmed white people than black people in total, per capita, yes, cops do shoot more black people, unarmed black people. But the reason for that is because blacks are inordinately represented compared to their population size within the U.S. in criminal activity. And people are like,
right.
Well, people are like, the whole thing is, it goes back to my thing about income inequality, income inequality that they have from the lack of education that feeds into criminal activity, that feeds into the income inequality, et cetera, et cetera. It's a circle. And people are like, well, what do you think causes that? It's obviously systemic racism. I'm like, no, there are plenty of black people who have gotten out of the ghetto. There are success stories
but is there
everywhere.
I actually think that there's just certain people that no matter what situation you put them in, they're just gonna they're gonna rise up. They're gonna be, there's just certain people that are just really good at it.
Yes.
But I also think there's a lot of people in the middle that are borderline. You put them in a shitty situation and they ain't gonna get out of it. And then, and they do go to work. I mean, like they do go to shittier schools. They're spending their time around the culture that is.
Well, the point I was going to get at here was that there isn't, like, if you look at the low-income black neighborhoods, high rate of crime, high rate of single parents, high rate of single mothers, high rate of drug use, low educational standards, income disparity. But then compare it to the low-income zones of whites and Hispanics, and it's the same story. You know, high indication of crime and drugs, low educational quality, income disparity. Longer trailer parks. Thank you. Essentially, all low-income communities reflect these situations. You will see a higher income disparity, a higher crime coefficient, everything. And the biggest detriment to the people in these communities is that they are polarized and isolationist. They're insular. It's us versus them in these communities. The people in the low income white communities, the government's after our guns, and them dirty niggers they're gonna come after us. Yeah, all that stuff. That is the stereotype. The reason it is the stereotype is because facets of it are true. And then in the low income black communities, oh, that damn whitey, he owes us all that money, and we was kings and shit. And again, I can't do a Hispanic impression. I'm not gonna try.
Well, you know I can't do one either, man.
Like the most I can do is imitate Caesar from Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. What His Holiness does in the woods is his own business, CJ.
Dude, I was going to ask you, do you think gynocentrism creates feminism, or feminism creates gynocentrism?
What's gynocentrism?
Gynocentrism is a focus on women and women's superiority. Essentially, it's the opposite.
I mean, we see gynocentrism even amongst cultures that are quite oppressive to women.
Chivalry wasn't. No, chivalry has nothing to do with how you treat women. Chivalry has to do with how you treat your enemies on the battlefield. And you're talking about the one thing in quote-unquote chivalry that said, oh yeah, women are the property of men. I guess we
maybe you could say that. Couldn't you say though that welcome, did someone just join?
Yeah, Jessica dropped and came back in.
Oh, sorry. Welcome back. So, but you could say, I mean, perhaps you could trace a gynocentrism back to the Middle Ages during the time that the romantic, what were they called, troubadours? The romantic poetry, right? That seems to be the beginning of romantic love, as far as we know. So perhaps that led to that.
Perhaps, but the big thing that I actually think about gynocentrism, and I'm along the same lines as Dr. Randomer Cam here. He had a video where he showed that gynocentrism and phallocentrism, if you want to call the opposite of that, since are supposed to exist in balance. There is supposed to be a balance between the two, because that's how humankind evolved. You know, you're gonna get tons of comments now from the feminists saying biological sex is a social construct, but females have a greater pelvic muscle mass made for supporting and carrying children, you know, all 9 months, and then pushing the baby out. They're also much more socially inclined, as shown by Simon Baron-Cohen's continuing experiments with infants and newborns.
True. They have different play styles.
They have different preferences, even as a newborn. Yeah.
I mean, even apes have different preferences for like boys' toys. I forgot which ape it was. They had a preference for.
Pretty sure it was chimpanzees.
Trucks. What? It wasn't chimps. I would have remembered if it was. The reason I remember it wasn't chimps is because I was surprised it wasn't chimps.
Maybe bonobos?
Dude,
no, bonobos is basically chimp. I would have remembered that too.
But
orangutan?
No. Wasn't gorilla.
Baboon?
Oh, it might have been orangutan.
Orangutans are great.
But
anyway, sorry, continue.
The big thing is that, you know, the role a lot of women had evolutionarily is the caregivers, the people who held down the fort, raised the children to accept to get to their roles in survival in their small tribal societies, and you know, we've all heard hunter-gatherer society, whereas men evolved to go out, endure, hunt, kill things, protect the tribe from further threats.
And you agree with this guy here? Yeah. Let me screen share the video and then let's see if you end up agreeing with C.S. MGTOW, I guess is his name.
MGTOW. Men going their own way.
MGTOW, yeah, men going their own way. Yeah.
But rather a gender misconception.
It's a dragon!
Article authored by AVFM founder Paul Elam and Peter Wright. It's
long video.
Chasing the Dragon, and the link to the article is, of course, in the description bar.
It might be better just to go read the Chasing the Dragon.
Yeah.
Maybe someone can just summarize the gist of the video or the article.
Okay, the gist of the video that CS MGTOW makes is the article makes the claim that gynocentrism is a result of makeups, and then CS of women having makeups and all beautifiers.
Okay.
Which makes men more attracted to them and more likely to be submissive to them.
Except women have had any amount of cosmetics for years, for centuries.
Since ancient times.
Some of the best examples of ancient cosmetics I can point to.
The ancient Egyptians.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And
but CS MGTOW's reply is, even in countries where women can't even show their beauties, there is still gynocentrism in those cultures. I've linked the video right here. You can go and watch it on your own, I guess.
So he's claiming that. For example, in Muslim societies, I wouldn't say that's gynocentric when clearly women are.
Okay. There's shades of gynocentrism even there.
There are, and he's right. Again, what Doc Randermacam showed in his... I'd have to go find the video, but what happens is gynocentrism and phallocentrism exist on a scale. They balance each other. When you get too much phallocentrism and the gynocentrism shrinks, you get the oppression of Islamic cultures. They sequester away their women because they are, quote-unquote, so valuable. But then when you get too much gynocentrism and the phallocentrism is nigh non-existent, you get places like currently Germany and Sweden, the rape capitals of the world right now, where women. Not only that, you have to have the multiculturalism and everything else. They have to exist on a balanced spectrum. There can be no man without woman, and there can be no woman without man. This just isn't a thing. Without the opposites to exist, they can't define each other.
Okay, how about if we reach to a time where robotic technologies will manage to take over one of the gender roles? Let's say robots could manage to take over the role of men, or robots could manage to take over the role of women. What could happen then?
Well, first of all, if we are even one iota the intelligence we claim to be, we're not going to give robots sentient AI so quickly. Secondly, I'm assuming right now you're just talking about the whole sex robot scandal thing.
Yeah, to some degree.
All that's going to do is it's going to give men who don't want to do anything with society the ability to fully check out. The whole Sexodus that Milo covered. Sex robots would give them the ability not only to just check out of most of society, they'd be able to check out of all society. And their genetics won't be passed on. They will not survive.
I'm saying if robots could take over fully the role of women, like have the capability to raise children and everything like that.
Oh, so you mean like artificial wombs and all that fun stuff. At that point, you're going to probably see society fracture.
What?
You'll see the people who want, humans to remain with humans, or humans to remain with whatever analog that we have at that point. And then you're going to have those who accept it. Either they'll just separate into two separate factions. The people who want to stay with humans, so men and women who want to stay with each other and don't want anything to do with robots, will go off into their own confines. And the people who want their robots are going to go off into their own confines. Or it's going to get worse.
Sorry, continue. Sorry.
It's probably, knowing the human race as well as anybody can, but knowing the current state of the human race as well as I do, if that becomes a thing, I can guarantee there will be a war over it.
So, hold on. Just catch me up on one thing. You're talking about when robots take over and they're doing everything, right?
Yeah. So I think the question is, I guess like the more philosophical question is, imagine if humans no longer had to fulfill certain biological needs. Women there was no longer any societal pressure, societal need for women to bear children or men to protect women. What if all of these necessities were removed? I guess it's a question about human nature. What would there be gender roles? What would men and women be like in such a world? For as long as it existed.
That's the question. Okay.
The question like that, as deep as it is, it has no one answer. It really depends on the collective psychiatric makeup of humankind at the point that occurs. If we're still as fractious and as in-group out-group dichotomous as we are now, the human race will cease to be. And that's the whole.
Wait. The human race. What do you mean by that will cease to be?
We'll go the way that Rat City did. I don't know if you know about the famous Rat City experiment in the 70s, where rats
Tell
were
us
basically.
About it.
Okay, so I'm paraphrasing very badly here. If I can find the paper, I will link it. But essentially, what happened was, John V. Calhoun, ethologist, conducted experiments on rats and mice. Where was it? In fact, the rats of Nim are based off of his experiments, kind of the cartoon. Let me find it. I might be quoting the wrong experiment.
No worries.
The rats were given a city where they were given everything. It had mazes. There were plentiful opposite-sex mice to mate with. There was all the food they could need, all the water they could need, everything. And through successive generations, the rats eventually became a non-functional society. By I believe it was generation 6, many of the rats were cannibalizing each other, killing each other, because they no longer knew how to get to the food. They didn't know how to get there, even though it was still right where it always was. And
can you see that happening? I'm sorry. Continue. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
It's okay. And then the few rats who still knew where to get stuff and were the few remaining viable mates, I guess you could call them, would constantly preen and beautify themselves to the exclusion of all else. They would preen and clean themselves and eat every so often, and they'd stop mating.
Wow.
And the whole place just fell apart.
But do you think that could really happen to people like that?
You know what's interesting? That reminds me of. I mean, I'm sure that it would be a good topic for a novel. I mean, look at Japan today. Look at what happens in many very rich societies. We see. I don't know if it's directly related, but in Japan, reproduction is going down. Also, in many Western countries, perhaps. Could you say a similar thing is happening?
I know that it's going down and they're less sexually active in Japan, but how do you see that relating? What's the cause that you see that relates to that?
Perhaps, well, maybe, as Duncan was saying, perhaps if humans are not given enough, how would you say?
Responsibility?
Responsibility, or perhaps if life is too easy, if humans are not given enough, how do you say, stimulation, perhaps the result is destruction.
But don't you think that we can if you really have a lot of stuff available to you, like you would in that type of future, I mean, you think you could humans will find their own stimulation? I mean, like rats don't have music, they can't play video games, they can't.
They do have societal concepts.
What do you mean?
True.
Right, they might have societal concepts, but they don't have all the other stuff that we have. Is my point.
Okay, so this was actually a 60s study and not a 70s study. I was incorrect on the time. But what this is, it's I'm going to read it from the wiki article. The wiki article actually has links to the primary sources. So this isn't just, bullshit on wiki. This is all backed up by things that can be traced. Oh, pardon me. Calhoun created what he termed the behavioral sink. It describes a collapse in behavior which results from overcrowding. Over a number of years, Calhoun conducted overpopulation experiments on Norway rats and mice. He coined the term behavioral sink on the February 1st, 1962 report in an article titled Population Density and Social Pathology in the Scientific American Weekly newspaper on the rat experiment. An excerpt from this study. Many female rats were unable to carry pregnancy to full term or to survive delivery of their litters if they did. An even greater number, after successfully giving birth, fell short in their maternal functions. Among the males, the behavior disturbances ranged from sexual deviation to cannibalism, and from frenetic overactivity to a pathological withdrawal from which individuals would emerge to eat, drink, and move about only when other members of the community were asleep. The social organization of the animals showed equal disruption. The common source of these disturbances became most dramatically apparent in the populations of the first series of 3 experiments, in which they observed the development of what they called a behavioral sink. The animals would crowd together in greatest number in one of 4 interconnecting pens in which the colony was maintained. As many as 60 of 80 of the rats in each experimental population would assemble in one pen during periods of feeding. Individual rats would rarely eat except in the company of other rats. As a result, extreme population densities developed in the pen adopted for eating, leaving the others with sparse populations. In the experiments in which the behavioral sink developed, infant mortality ran as high as 96% among the most disoriented groups in the population. And the whole thing is this was the way Universe 25, as it was called, was designed. It was a 101-inch square cage. Oh no, that one's from mice. Excuse me. It's a 10 by 14 foot case, separated into 4 rooms, and he upgraded it from there into Universe 25, which was it was this place where in the center was the place where they'd all eat and stuff, with ramps up to small, tiny apartments for the rats, and and the big thing is that.
What? What happened?
I can't hear that.
He's gone.
Oh, internet problem?
I don't think so. He left.
He must
in the
have
middle of
disconnected.
speaking. So I don't think he left.
No, he probably had an internet issue.
It looks like Facebook crashed.
Really?
Check it out.
Mine too. I can't send any message.
Really?
Yeah, Messenger is
I've never
working.
seen that happen with Facebook.
Last week,
I've seen that happen.
That happened with Netflix.
You guys have seen this?
Oh, I'm able to send messages. Maybe the server for Israel is still running.
Hit refresh.
Let's see. No, it's probably just a server problem wherever your server is.
Okay.
Let me see if Messenger is working. Dude, last week, it was last month. I mean, Netflix had kind of crashed.
Apparently, I crashed out. Where did I cut out?
We were just you were saying that you were saying that you were talking about their birth rate and that they had a ramp up to individual apartments.
Yeah. So the way this all started, Universe 25, divided into main squares, subdivided into levels with ramps going up to apartments. Always kept stock with food and water. He introduced 8 rats, 4 males, 4 females into this, or 8. Or maybe no, this is the mice one, isn't it? Yeah, this is the mice one. This is the one that had the beautiful ones in it. He experimented with both because their social behaviors are very similar in certain ways to humans.
Really?
Well, to quote from the Wikipedia article about behavioral sync, rat to human comparison. Controversy exists over the implications of the experiment. Psychologist Jonathan Friedman's experiment recruited high school and university students to carry out a series of experiments that measured the effects of density on behavior. He measured their stress, discomfort, aggression, competitiveness, and general unpleasantness. He declared to have found no appreciable negative effects in 1975. Researchers argued that Calhoun's work was not simply about density in a physical sense, as number of individuals per square unit area, but was about degrees of social interaction. There's a comparison because of the fact that certain social strata, according to this experiment, and again, it's in the full text of the experiment. Let me actually retrieve that.
Go ahead.
In the full text of the experiment, it's being used to compare the social and psychological strata of mice to humans, of mice and rats to humans, because they share such a strong correlation in certain respects. Again, I'd have to review to find those particular. Oh, this has a paywall. This has a paywall.
Oh darn!
I need to go to that Russian site.
LibGen.
Yeah.
The greatest. It was down the other day.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
There's this great website for downloading pirated books and articles called libgen.com. There's all kinds of mirrors for it. Just Google that if you're looking for it.
It's not necessarily it's not pirated. The person paid for all those articles and just posted them up for free after.
Oh really?
Because she believes that science should be accessible to all.
Maybe I'm thinking of a different site. I pirate all of my Kindle books from that site.
Wow, you're a pirate?
Sure.
Now we're pirating here, guys.
Wait, someone released a lot of the science papers and stuff?
Yeah.
You were saying? Someone pirated, released I didn't know that.
Okay, so allegedly, it's Sci-Hub. It's dubbed the Pirate Bay for Scientists. Offering peer-reviewed academic papers to download for free.
Holy shit, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I've paid money for papers to do research for my professors when I couldn't get a hold of them.
Yeah. So the way it is she I don't know how she actually got a hold of them, but she has shared 48 million journal articles, almost every single peer-reviewed paper ever published, for free.
Wow. Amazing.
Let me see if I can find it.
It sounds like she hacked the databases. Shit. That's crazy.
Sci-Hub looks like it's down.
You remember the Asian guy who did many academic work and he kind of killed himself at the end? Like he gave many free academic work for people to use?
Nope.
No, I don't remember that.
He had to kill himself because he realized that he would get in trouble for it, and his engineering career would get jeopardized because of that.
Seriously.
Even if the people who he used their work were quite pleased that he shared it, the government still wanted to interfere.
So Sci-Hub as a website has, like, the original Sci-Hub.io shut down. I remember that they got this. Let me see here.
All right, I gotta get go. All right, people, I have to get ready to go out. Thanks
Okay.
for the
It was
invite.
great to have you.
Yes, yes.
Thank you for
Invite me
joining
next
us.
time.
Sure, for sure.
Sci-Hub's pretty great for a lot of it.
Okay. I will remember that. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're
Peace
welcome.
out.
Peace out, bro.
So what happened in the Universe 25 experiment was the 8 mice exploded in population. By day 560, the population had reached 2,200 in that tiny little space, and then declined back to unrecoverable extinction.
Wow.
And it was the I was about to talk about the beautiful ones, where a few females and some pretty males too were guarded by bigger brutish males inside the secluded spaces of the universe. And the beautiful ones didn't do anything but fight, but they didn't breed, they didn't fight, they didn't do anything but eat, groom themselves, and sleep. And so when the population finally came to its inevitable conclusion, they were spared from the violence and the death outside. Like all the other mice died.
My gosh.
But the beautiful ones had lost all social behavior. They didn't even know how to have sex, and when they figured that out, they didn't even know how to care for their young properly. And so they went extinct.
Wow, that's remarkable. So basically, what would you say are the implications for humans? Similar?
I would say that in the event that we remain as fractious as we are, if we're thrust into a world of plenty, you'll see this happen.
I mean, on a personal level, I don't care. I don't care what happens.
That's already happening in some respects?
I am not sure if there's enough. If there's enough, there's more nuance because of human political strata and human. I mean, like I said, the comparison between mice and rats and humans was there because certain facets of social strata are similar, but you can't say mice and humans are the same. Our decline will be much longer and probably a lot more painful. As it is now, I don't think we're at that point of no return.
But here's one of the things that most people will tell you, which is, why should I care as long as I'm dead? Like, if I'm going to die ahead of the end of the world.
That's a pretty fatalistic way of looking at it. My thing is I'm a known misanthrope to the people who associate with me. I hate humanity as a whole. And sure, that's a generalization, but I think humans as a whole are stupid and petty. But obviously I have friends and family, people I associate with on an individual level, and I don't think that they're stupid or petty. Well, maybe sometimes I do, but that's situational. That's situational. People always have those types of thoughts. But I don't think they're stupid and petty and irredeemable. As a misanthrope, realistically, I don't think that there's a lot of hope for humanity at times. But because I'm also very dichotomously and somewhat hypocritically a hopeless romantic, there's a part of me that wants to believe in the potential that humanity could achieve. There's a potential for humanity to achieve greatness. And I want to believe in that. I want to see that occur. I don't want humankind to go blindly into the dark and stumble and trip and fall and die. Because I do want to see them rise above this terrible, tribalistic, bigoted way that humans tend to see a lot of the world. I want to see humans become more than they are. I just don't have a lot of expectation for it.
Fair enough.
So do you think our behavior will ever change? Our ways of doing things?
It really depends. Because right now, our behavior is changing and has changed really rapidly back and forth across social and political strata. The pendulum effect that everybody mentions, you know, the left swings and then the right swings back harder, et cetera, et cetera. That's a thing that occurs in humanity because of how we raise children. I mean, and it's not even like, oh, parents are bad parents. I mean that children throughout history are raised to try and be better than their parents, or at least to emulate their parents, which is why you have the rebellious phase in a lot of them. Of course, this depends on the situations of the child. If the child's, say, a serf in a fiefdom, they don't really have the time to think about that sort of thing because they're farming to pay off their lord and then farming to survive, so they've really got no energy for rebellion. But because we are in such a world of plenty since the Industrial Revolution, because we have come to this high production land of excess, many, in fact, most children have the ability to think beyond the day-to-day and go, I want something better, and I don't want to be like the failings that I see in my parents. Or I see something better, and I don't want to be like the failings I see in my parents' generation, or et cetera, et cetera.
My teacher used to have a saying, and he said that his parents were quite racist and sexist, and then he changed his attitude, and then he said that as a parent, if your child doesn't have better moral values than the way you do, that means you have failed as a parent.
And you know, that facet I can sort of agree with. If the child doesn't have at least different but still positive values than yourself, you're only teaching them to not think. You're teaching them just to learn what you do, emulate. By teaching children to think for themselves, they're going to come up with different conclusions than you. End of story. I mean, some conclusions will be similar. Some conclusions are going to be quite different. And that's all part of individualism. People are going to come up with different answers to the same questions when it comes to philosophy. Hopefully people do not come up with different answers to the same questions in science unless there is new evidence to debunk previous questions. That's where we get pseudoscience and all that stupid misinformation like feminist glaciers.
Oh, feminist glaciers.
Did you see wait, I remember, the science delusion?
No, tell us about that.
It's like the worst. It's kind of like
another postmodern masterpiece.
Yeah, basically that's what it goes down to.
Interesting.
And it dismisses all scientific ideas as too idealistic, too naive, and everything like that.
Okay, so you're talking about the book The Science Delusion by Rupert Sheldrake?
I think it's on TEDx, the talk.
Well, it was banned on TEDx.
On TEDx? Banned? Why is that?
Yeah, they took it down.
Why? Outcry from their viewers?
Okay. You could find the video, though.
Okay, so I see on Google Books that this book is under religion for some reason.
Yeah, it's kind of attacking. It's calling science a religion.
Really?
Yeah.
Which is what every religious person says.
Yeah, actually, let's end the on-air podcast and then let's go off-air and we could watch it because I don't want to get a copyright strike.
Sure. Oh, okay, good idea. Okay, good.
Okay, so apparently what this guy is saying, and I can't. This is only the synopsis. Apparently, what this guy is saying. What's that sound?
I was just preparing the video.
Oh, okay. Okay. Sorry about that. I just couldn't hear anything for a second. But apparently what he is saying is that science has become dogmatic.
Yeah, by calling science dogmatic, he's kind of like advocating against objectivism and objective reality.
Not objectivism, objectivity. Objectivism is something created by Ayn Rand, and we're not going to get into Randian politics. I'm just not getting into how Randian politics makes me angry. Anyway.
I mean, I find it funny though how the religious right quotes Ayn Rand, and she attacks them before a lot.
Yeah.
True.
But
Anyway,
essentially,
so
he says that he says that that science is constricted by assumptions that have become dogma. But the assumptions aren't dogma. The assumptions are based on rigorous continuing checks. They're not really assumptions, they're conclusions. And even then, science never claims to be the be-all, end-all. Science never claims to be the be-all, end-all. They do not claim to have ultimate or absolute truth. They never have. Science has always been about questioning and changing your position if you need to, depending on how the evidence provides. But if the evidence...
Sorry, so does he mean that the scientific method, he's saying that that's...
I think he's saying that the scientific community has become dogmatic. And I don't know how true or untrue that statement is. The reviews that this piece has on Google Books is not available because apparently it's inappropriate.
What?
Probably people got pissed off because of the things he said. So let's go off air and watch the video now.
Sure.
So, everyone watching this broadcast, remember to subscribe.